And we're live. Hello, hello, hello. There's two of us, but don't worry. There should be another one.
Boom.
Boom. There should be another one. Is of course is putting on makeup. I think. I think his
Yes.
wife is doing. Make sure that like he looks good. And
He probably built up a big sweat because he was out bowling.
exactly.
That's hard work.
He was having so much fun. I think he's just like, this is not fun enough. I'll be whatever time I can be here. So we will see when he's gonna pop in. So Damien, how you been?
Good. I would say in terms of time to read comics, it was kind of a middling week.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many more comics I wanted to read than I got to, but so I got 13 new comics, so I haven't quite finished them all. I was just racing to try to finish this one because I figured that Terrence had read it.
Oh.
Hey, Terrence.
Oh, we can't hear you.
You might be muted. We can't hear you, Terrence.
Yeah, we can't hear. Terrence, put the volume up.
Well,
like,
in the
meantime,
how was did you find much? You said it was very sunny there, so maybe you found less time to read either.
No, actually, I surprisingly gave myself more time to read comics.
Oh, nice.
I tend to like.
Yeah, I think we can hear you now.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So I decided because I got so into the story, which I'm gonna talk to you about this time, because of one magazine I received. So I just went like, surprisingly, I just like, okay, instead of doing something like regularly I usually do, I tend to wind down like watching some YouTube stuff, like that's my television anyway. So, but I decided like, I'm going to switch it off and I'm actually going to take my time to read comics. And I really enjoyed it. I thoroughly said to myself like, wow, this is actually you doing that to yourselves? Like, good on you. So I was very pleased with myself, for myself. Weird. Anyway, so, and how are you, Mr. Cracky Duck?
Good. I'm good. It's been a huge week, and I just got back from bowling, and I had a beer, maybe two. So I'm gonna rehydrate with some water.
So, did you get to wear the Grand Poobah hat?
No, not. I did actually win. We had a pot. And I was the most pins over average. So I think I was 61 pins over my average. So I did win 18 solid dollars, which was kind of nice.
Wow. Actual money.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, we bet like $2. We have like a couple of $2 pots that we just kind of, just for the heck of it, right? So yeah, it was fun. It was a good time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. I mean, any money is good.
What were you guys talking about? What did I jump in on?
Just whether we had time to read, how much time we got to read this week. And Ross was saying she was reading a lot this week.
Well,
you were just starting the explanation, I think.
Kind of. Comparing to, compared to him,
we can't keep up with you, Terrence. Sorry.
It was an intense week of reading, and literally within the past even couple of days, just getting all these books in and just devouring it. Like I had a huge reading week this week because the previous week was a little bits and pieces here and there, but I'm definitely on an uptick of the amount that I'm reading lately. So
that's crazy. I mean, it's nice that you. I mean, when I watched your Twitter, I was like, Jesus, damn, you read too much. You should stop it now. I mean, stop. Actually, you know what? Stop showing off things. It's annoyingly like, oh, you go. It's like you went to there, you got picked up some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
You went there and you got another thing. It's like, come on, dude. We need to stop following, like, untwitch you, whatever.
Yeah, but he's the most interesting person we're following on Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, like, selling all these books lately, it's been great for just kind of amassing this money, and this stuff has just come up. So I figured, it's one of those things, like, even when I was talking to Ryan on Twitter, even he was like, holy smokes, man, you're going to break the bank. It's like, well, I've sold a lot of comics though. Like I've sold a lot on eBay, and the benefit is to redistribute that. So I made money off of comics. Let's buy more comics, especially when, things like Domino, things like Birdcage Bottom, some of these indie ones, it's really, really great to it's a good feeling to kind of redistribute that money to some of these indie publishers and kind of, you know, small press people, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's just, it's at the access, especially with the internet. It's super easy to do, right? You make $5 online. It's super easy to spend that $5 immediately, as we're all aware, you know, between eBay and websites and stuff, right? So, and just
each one of those creators that you're buying from, like every sale really matters to them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and totally 10 years from now, you may or may not ever be able to find their work too. So,
well, and that's even the thing that I'm finding, that some of this stuff, you know, like this book that I was super impressed with, this Wild 2, try to find Wild #1. It's impossible, man. Like, because there was only so many printed, and it started off as single issues. There were single issues of all this stuff, but you can't find that for the love of anything. They have a page where they've kind of Freak something or other. I can't remember the website, but where it's kind of a small collective of creators making comics, right? And it's just impossible because they can only afford to print so many copies. And once those copies are gone, they're gone. You can find this book around. Volume 2 is still for sale, but Volume 1 is impossible. I haven't found anything yet, right? So, I mean, I'm going to keep digging, and hopefully I'll get lucky, but so far, nothing. And this has been one of the highlights of this week for me. This was such, it was such a fun read. Like, I don't want to say it, but it's sort of that idea of when I dove into Love and Rockets, I felt like I was jumping into a world that was really fleshed out and characters that were really fleshed out, where it felt everything that they were talking about was completely within this world, and I was just getting introduced to the world. Just really entertaining. Like, there's obviously the kind of main plot of this roller derby team. So there's that competitive element, but there's also, they touch on kind of some of the struggles that the individual girls are facing, whether it's family troubles, whether it's problems in their community. There's this one kind of main character here, and that's kind of, you know, sort of the bully, and she's getting bullied because she doesn't speak fluent Spanish. She hasn't grown up in that world, right? So she's having a hard time coming to her identity, that sort of thing. So it's really, really, it was a hell of a read, man. It was an easy read, super fun. It's a beautiful edition, you know, really, really nice. And it's 2020s. And like I said, you can still find it out there, but just the reproduction and the style in it is just beautiful. Really, really nice stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So you start just like chatting and then take over, you know, like it's like your own channel.
Sorry.
And he's like, oh, I'm going to show you my comic.
We brought it up.
Yeah.
No, just, you know.
I just dove right in, yeah.
It's a good kick-in start. Like, we don't have to say it. Like, it's so fluid, you know. You see, we don't have to even say it to each other. Like, blink, blink, and here you go. It's the book out, and we're showing it to you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Do you think this year, because you're counting on Twitter every time you read another book, do you think that's keeping the momentum rolling more than a normal?
100%. Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And honestly, our weekly hangouts is a big part of it too. I think both of those combined, like, I'm a pretty good reader in general, but there's no way that I've read this much in previous years in, like, you know, what are we? So we're still in April, right? The amount of books that I've read up until this point, it's definitely helped kind of excel that reading. Plus, I mean, we're still on the tail end of the pandemic. It's going to slow down now that I'm back at work and things are getting busier. It'll for sure slow down, or it may pick up even more because, I mean, the decompression at the end of the day, right? Wanting to sit downstairs and just decompress and just read some comics and just read some stuff. So who knows, but absolutely that counting that 500 comics and our weekly chat or bi-weekly chat sometimes, it's really pushing me for sure. No doubt.
But do you find that you like, you know, like like you're moving up? Does it feel like you have to do it now, or you still enjoying to the point where like, yeah, I'm enjoying it, so I just want to put it on a list?
That's the thing. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Like, I'm enjoying it so much, and I think it's because of the stuff that I'm getting in. Like I was saying in a video recently, there's a certain excitement that I'm feeling now with the stuff that I'm reading, and the stuff that I'm interested in and the stuff that's coming out, there's this kind of really guttural like excitement, you know, where I used to feel that at some point for the weekly comics when there was when I had a pull list and stuff. But this is different. Like this is different. This is really like ultimately this stuff that I'm reading right now, I am really, really into. So anytime it comes in, like I was saying, there's stuff that I open it up out of the package and I sit and start reading it because I'm just really excited about it, right? There's something new to look at. There's beautiful art. There's cool stories, all of this. And even with some of the indie stuff that I've been reading lately, whereas before some of that small press and indie stuff, maybe the story was very secondary, it feels like there's a new generation of creators where that the stories are really good. They're actually pretty solid. It's not just a series of events to kind of drive the art or something. It feels like some of these creators so far have started getting a handle on a good story plus some very unique art. You know, they have more to say. There's been a longer period of time with these kind of indie publishers and small press publishers where they're getting a handle on matching the two. Because I mean, there's a lot of kind of indie books in my collection that are where the art is the kind of driving force and the story is just, I guess that was a story. I mean, it got me through the book, but nothing really entertaining. It feels like that's changing with some of these newer creators that I'm discovering. And again,
that's really
I always have to give
promising.
a huge shout out to Ryan because he's been instrumental in pointing out some creators for me.
Hi, Lillian.
Hello. I guess. So, where you been up
So,
to?
now Lillian made me forget what I was going to say, but we got a lot of really cool people in the chat that arrived very quickly. That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
And Gore Vidal is very worried that we might talk about Saga. So I think in his honor, we should devote the rest of the show to Saga.
Yeah.
I think so.
And we should put the Brian K. Vaughan on a pedestal and just say how wonderful he is and how wonderful creations he does. And it's only about SAGA for today.
Yeah.
We should make him King of Texas, in fact.
And then make sure that all his lawyers will go and meet him and make sure they take over, and then Gore Vidal gets left behind. And then it's like, oh my God, it's a nightmare of a day. Anyway, Damien, do you want to show us what you have read?
Yeah, actually, because of Terrence, I think I'm going to do my screen share, but I have a different screen share if you'll click on that for me.
Okay. This one? No.
Yes.
Wait,
but oops.
This one.
There we go. Okay, Terrence, this is all your fault.
Nice. Good work.
I discovered that on the digital service that I get from my library, I could get this Frank book that's 350 pages long.
Oh,
and so I have read 300. Well, I think I've read about 320 pages of it so far. It's hard to know when you're reading kind of with these silent books.
Yeah.
But and talk about things that are maybe, is there a story there or not? I mean, I feel kind of mesmerized by him. It feels like there's a story there in a way. Mm-hmm. I like the black and white ones best, actually.
Yeah.
There's there's notes from him at the back. I don't know if any of the individual comics you have, does he write about it?
No, nothing in the ones that I have.
I guess this started when someone asked him to do a comic that looks like it's a normal comic, but totally isn't if you actually read it. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was cool. Mm-hmm. And his mother-in-law said it reminds me of my cat, Frank. And that's what I got the name. And the other thing is he was trying to make a creature that was anthropomorphic animal without being clear what animal it is. Mm-hmm. But so I don't know too much how to talk about this, but I've seen Frank and known about him, but until you talked about him, Terrence, I just never thought, oh, I should read some Frank comics. Mm-hmm. It's I don't know how to describe it. The Man Hog, in particular, just drives me crazy.
Yeah, he's a disturbing character. You almost feel sorry for Man Hog at times.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's both the villain and the victim.
Yeah.
And he's maybe for us men, maybe he's the closest thing to us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was calling him the man pig actually till I found this page where they have a description of each character. So this sin-bloated bladder that crawls on four limbs would like nothing better than to get away from everyone and everything forever. Luckily for us, he's forced into having all sorts of exciting and horrible adventures. Manhog has been drowned, ground, filled with parasites, scraped to a nub, stabbed, stuffed, scared, and driven away so many times that it's a miracle he sticks around. Perhaps he couldn't leave if he tried.
It's interesting though, like the black and white, like you were saying, like the color is enjoyable, but I mean, nothing beats the black and white. It's just, it's really gorgeous stuff.
And I think this Pupshaw character is my favorite. I guess he's like a pet dog or cat. Looks like he's made from, I don't know, a bread box or something. And the other thing the other big thought I had about it was, did you ever see you probably saw that documentary about Robert Crumb and his brother, the older brother with the graphomania?
Yep.
This feels like someone who's got graphomania. He just can't stop making all these lines.
Yeah.
But I feel sucked into his graphomania, which is why I like the black and white ones better, I guess.
I know that DaCosta watched it recently the other day, but if you haven't seen the documentary on Jim Woodring, it's really recommended. It's really recommended because you can see kind of the intensity. He's got sketchbooks, hundreds of sketchbooks where he can't stop. So I think you're pretty close. Like he really cannot stop doing this. And plus he's a perfectionist. So when he's working on a panel, sometimes even a panel will take him forever just because he really wants to get every single detail right. So it's quite a documentary.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, all these lines are obviously freehand, but they all work together perfectly.
Yeah.
At least I assume they're freehand. I suppose he could draw lines and then go over them in a freehand. Sean says any relation to Man Bear Pig, but I don't know if that's a joke or if there is a Man Bear Pig.
No.
Anyway, so this was most of my reading yesterday. I just couldn't stop reading it. And I will eventually get the physical, but there's something about it digitally because digital kind of flows into my brain, and it's almost better with these wordless comics to do digital than it would be on a page. I'm not sure how to explain that, but very disturbing world we've got here.
For sure.
There was one there. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
There was one where he had writing under each panel. And have you seen that one?
I don't think I have.
And there, in one of the sequences, something really gross was happening to Manhog, and underneath the panel, he was saying, "Oh God, can't we just look away and look out the window and look at the sunset, or something like that?" So it's like he was making fun of the disturbingness of his own story, almost like it's out of his control. He's disturbed by it too, but he can't stop.
The one thing that came to me recently, and I don't remember where I heard somebody say it literally, but maybe it was on the Kayfabe channel, I don't know, but the amount of doorways and the amount of windows and the amount of looking into stuff that happens in the Frank comics, like there's something about that too. Like there's a lot of shots of doorways and buildings and walking into places and walking out of places and looking into kind of holes in the ground and windows, and it's really, there's something there. And those creations,
there's a lot of things that swallow you or you swallow them too, which I think goes along with the holes in the doorways.
Yeah, it's really immersive stuff. It's quite a unique vision.
When I watch it in black and white, it feels like a dream sequence, like you can actually be dreaming of that.
Right. And that's, I guess, what I'm saying about the digital, that the digital flows almost too easily usually for comics, but there's something about it that made me just get into even more of a dream state. So
That's true.
I can easily just reread the whole thing. The thing is, did these things originally appear in their own comics, or were they like each one in the back of?
There was a
Other
variety of
comics.
stuff. So sometimes it appeared in like the Jim comics, and then there was a Frank miniseries itself. But Frank has appeared in the first volume of Jim when they were kind of magazine size. A lot of those stories were doing, there was many other stories that kind of dominated those, but I think that's kind of where the origins were. And there's even that Pupshaw and Pushpaw, who is another creature just like that. They kind of fit together.
Right. I've seen
Pushpaw
Pushpaw
as well too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Amazing.
Well,
Yeah, I
so
mean, look at that building, man. That's
Yeah.
insane. The line work is just gorgeous.
yeah.
I think if I would be reading and concentrating on this, I would be dreaming this, because I actually read something and I end up, I could like sort of remember half of his stuff. Like I was like, did I just dream that? Like you kind of get confused after reading some things, like, because it does really feel like a dream sequence.
Yeah, it does
Yeah.
feel like I was just dreaming this stuff yesterday.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what the guy did, like he has
Well, and
that
that's-
kind of a broad imagination,
That's exactly what it is. I mean, a lot of his work over the years has drawn from his own dreams and things, like that's where he gets a lot of his kind of vision and influence. I mean, I highly recommend the documentary. It really gives you a lot of insight into him as an artist and him as kind of where he kind of gets where he gets these creations from.
Gore Vidal says, for a moment, I imagined Paddington appeared in a panel with Manhog. I wonder who would be more shocked. Well, that's another thing is, I was about to show some things to my daughter, and then suddenly I saw some other stuff and decided not to.
Yeah.
It's if you can selectively choose stuff, there's stuff that's probably quite fun for kids.
Yeah.
I love this like cone-shaped chicken that shows up every now and then.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very good.
And then this devil creature, I forget what he's called.
Yeah. This moon-shaped guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's moon-shaped, I guess. I thought of him as a devil creature.
I think of him as a devil too. Yeah, for sure. He's definitely that kind of influence, but he's not purely evil. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Mischievous, perhaps.
yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Even look at that letter, like for Frank. It's really stunning stuff. The guy is an unbelievable draftsman. Like, it's really beautiful.
Yes. I feel embarrassed that I just kind of have been walking by it for years without even looking.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I mean, it's some of that stuff. It's on the right on the edges, right? Like, again, when I was reading all this indie stuff growing up in the 90s, it was Peter Bagge, it was Jim Woodring, and it was Daniel Clowes. Those were like the three heavy hitters. Obviously, there was more, but for me personally, those were the three kind of pinnacles for my comic consumption. That everything they did was just incredible to me. But even in that group, Woodring stood on his own because he was just really like nothing else, right?
Yeah. When I was reading those other guys and missed Woodring. So anyway, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad you dig it.
So, okay. So I don't know, how do I start? I mean, I started only reading the stuff what Damien sent to me because of why not? Like something is appealing so much to me. So, but I'm not sure who I should. I guess I should start. I'll start with this. So anyway, okay, let me. I forgot I have to do that to myself as well. Work, Rasa. Brain. Okay, so Mr. Damien included this, Deadly Hands of Criminal. And so I read it first. Not first, that's actually second thing I read after the little surprise stack once again from Damien I received. So, and then all of this talk about Criminal, the republishing of these volumes, I do follow Ed Brubaker on his, the feedback, like the email notification. I don't know what it's called. Like subscribe to them and they give
His
you
newsletter.
Newsletter. There you go. So he's talking about those reprints of those nice deluxe editions and the problems he's having, that stuff. And then I guess it's just that criminal everywhere. So I was like, okay, it's bright yellow. I should just go ahead, just read it and see what, things, what people like really excited about. So this story is absolutely fantastic, as like one of the best, I think, art-wise, and from Sean Phillips. We started with this nice, beautiful shape page, with especially this black and white, which is just reminding me of those magazines, if you subscribe to. But the art in this beautiful thing is, so now I know what Sean Phillips's art I like is when he has a really, really good colorist. And in here is this Brightwise, isn't it?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. So Miss Brightweiser has been coloring him, and I think she's the best at depicting all the color scheme, the moodness of the art that needs to be. Love that kid's expression in here. So while I was reading, I didn't know nothing about Criminal. Okay, so no idea. Haven't looked at it, not read it. So I went blank with not knowing characters. Now I know who the characters is because I'll tell you why later. But as I really started hating the dad. Of course, that's what's supposed to happen, I guess, because he's a douche with a big D on it. But the way they were like injecting the comic book, your comic book you're reading inside, that was crazy but really entertaining to me. But the story wise, it was, they are on the run, and in this part where it was like, oh, okay, so we actually got to put that character into the comic book, which I wasn't expecting, to be honest. I wasn't even flipping through it. I just went in there, and that really helped the story, I think, because reading. But then I found out after reading something else after that this is the story after, and I found out why they actually reading this magazine and why there's a fascination about this magazine is. So it is included in the storyline. So I wouldn't say I would recommend to do it like the way I was reading, because it would work really nicely with the story. So what I'm talking about is basically it came out this magazine before in the story. So you read this first, and then you should read that one as a second one. But anyway, so I'm not going to say much of the story. I think you should definitely read it. It's actually very surprising turns. I kind of expected it, but the way the dad was and how he just, doing everything from not basically having any idea of Criminal whatsoever. So I got all surprises afterwards. But as I say, that colorist and Sean Phillips, it just works so bloody well together in this one. It's just like, if you want to show off Sean Phillips for me, I think I will be just showing this all the time now, not his recent stuff. That's where I have a problem with seeing this, where he probably took time to do, and having those graphic novels now we're getting in the hardback. The art is it's significantly different for me, and I find it sad, to be honest, because if he would have this kind of art in those hardbacks, that would be even more for me like selling point, to be honest. But I'm thankful for this, and I absolutely love the format. I actually, because Damien sent me so many magazines, and now I was like, oh, actually, I understand the heartache of storing them, because I do have that. I was like, I don't really have a storage solution for this yet. But format-wise, I really enjoy it. I like the bigger pages. I like this spreads out like this. You can see more. It's the enjoyment of just having this in your hands and how you reading the story. So yeah, really, really good first impressions. As I say, I'm not going to say anything on the storyline because I think it's really worth for people to read. It's really good if you can find it. Actually, to be honest, when you sent me this, I started straight away looking online if there's available, because for my stupid brain, I didn't know I had this, but apparently I do. So woof.
You think you had read that before?
No, I think when I got that, I was actually wanted to read it, but I didn't. I think I got I was having this plan how I'm going to get my criminal reading situation. Like you have like some set of like idea of how you wanted to get like information. And honestly, what I've read, which I'll share to you afterwards when I'm gonna have my chance, it makes sense. How you do it. It's lots of information I found out after reading this. Even though I really love the story, it's really nice. Actually, the story itself really cool, but you don't know the background of the characters. When you know it, the actual story is even more enriched for me, because I know exactly who the dad is. I know who the son is. Very famous afterwards in those criminal series. So, yeah, really cool.
Yeah, well, I had read them all out of order myself, so I just didn't worry about sending you one in the middle of things.
No, it's fine. I mean, thank God you didn't. Honestly, I'm really glad you sent me that, not this, because in my stupid brain, I didn't think even having it. But that picture, because you see, when I saw the picture, I think that really appealed to me, because I really like the barbaric kind of type of the magazine style, because I've already got some of the Conan magazines. So I think that's why I bought it. And knowing that the creative team, I felt like I will pick it up. I'll probably enjoy it. And I really actually like this story, but I'll maybe mention and show it to you afterwards later. But as I say, it's a surprise sometimes when we were talking before, you have an expectation from creators, and then you go into it, they earlier work, because they later work. That's how I am with them. And I was like thinking, I will be enjoying the earlier stuff, or really like it because it feels like more established. Maybe they already know they like teamwork kind of thing. They have their understanding together because they've been working so long. And it seems to be the criminal itself isn't one of the like few things like independently what they did, or anyway, because I'm confused with that. Is Icon is the
That's right. So it was
original
like
publishing?
Marvel. Yeah, it was like a sub-label of Marvel where it came out.
Yeah. But honestly, this format,
Volume 3, I think Volume 3 hardcover just came out recently, so like that'll probably be easier to grab than I haven't looked lately to see how difficult Volume 1 and 2 are to get your hands on, but I think Volume 3 is more recent release, so that should be fairly easy and affordable.
They're re-releasing all of them, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they are. Oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
So
that.
Unless you care about first print, you're all set now.
The first prints usually go for £150 at least.
Mm-hmm.
That's the minimum price I've saw being sold for, like the first criminal deluxe edition. Especially number 1 is the cover I showed you afterwards. I had it all on singles, but I really like the format, to be honest. This is really cool to read them. Like I was thinking,
wish there were more like that.
I was reading this and I was like, that graphic, that hardback. Imagine having this in a hardback. That would be stunning. I would be like, definitely I'm gonna buy it. That smaller format. Maybe they're trying like something with that, but I don't know. I really, as I say, I'm becoming kind of like a fan after this, like more magazine, like maybe, like I want a bigger pages or panels. It's just the art the way you see the art is different, like you're not that squished. You don't feel like, now I'm saying to myself, I feel like claustrophobic when reading comic books sometimes, not like that little panels and you're like, magnifying glass, maybe I'm getting old.
It's hard to go back, man. Once you've experienced it in that other format, it's really tough sometimes to go back to a kind of standard comic size, Yeah,
exactly. So we have more viewers like Scott Connor, Custom Brown Star, Mr. Ryan C. The Costa is here. Then we have who else? I just saw. I missed it now. There's so many comments, babe. That is difficult to go and
I'm gonna
see
have to reread those magazines issues because I haven't read them since they came out. But hearing you talk about it, it's like I need to dig those out and reread them. I think
I'm gonna say it again. This is really good.
Awesome.
It's one of the. It's just the way it starts. Like it's simple. Like you have a scene of him in the petrol station just fueling up, and then this guy just says hello to him, and the kid is like, "Don't talk to me," and you're like, just don't speak to me. It's like, what's wrong with you? Like, people get offended straight away. Why would you? I'm just being courteous, like they say. Like, I'm being nice. Why are you like nasty to me? And then you find out the story goes in there and tells you why he's being so like that. And then family and all that stuff. It's really good. And then what happens in that little town? What the dad did? It's like, whoa. and the trunk opening. It's like, whoa! Like I was that like child. It's like I'm not sure what I would feel, to be honest. It's actually quite scary knowing what your parent, who's supposed to be a clever person, it just does to you, you know. Anyway, yeah. So Mr. Crack, you want us to show us some more of your beautiful things?
Go to this one.
Oh.
I talked about it previously. I'm a huge Jesse Jacobs fan. Jesse Jacobs, I think, is one of my favorite cartoonists. There's something about his books. This one, I didn't think, it was a total surprise. So when I did the order from Floating World, I was just going to order the Night Hunters books that I was missing, and then saw this available in their catalog and jumped on it. I figured I'd missed out on this one because things from Hollow Press are kind of limited editions. I thought that there was no chance that I was going to get it, and ordering one book from overseas is just not worth it because the shipping is just so unbelievably expensive. This was so much fun, and it's again like he's got this ability to create almost like these, if you're from Canada, these hinterland who's who kind of moments of, let's just now go into nature and let's study these creatures and let's see how they survive, how they reproduce, what challenges they face as a species. And this is exactly what it's like. I absolutely love it. It's very inventive. His design is gorgeous. The backgrounds are stunning. He works a lot with, there's a lot of constellations in this as well too, in the background of all of these creatures and how they reproduce. One of the pages I saw on, let's see if I can find it. I saw it on the Hollow Press website. This page here is for sale. They've got a bunch of Jesse Jacobs pages, not colored, just the black and white. But this one, if I ever was to buy a page from him, this one is great, just showing how they reproduce every night. They split themselves, they divide themselves into two, and when their population gets too big, when there's too many mouths to feed, so to speak, they then end up devouring each other. So one gets devoured and absorbed back into the creature just to create one. I can't find the page, but stuff like this too. And his limited color palette that he uses on all of the books, just the guy is incredible. And I mean, I raved about the game Spinch that he designed. It's really, again, it's this immersive world, and there's a story that goes through it. There's definitely a story there, and it's for all of his stuff, every single one of his books, but his perspective is very unique, and it's more about kind of world building and exploring the landscape and exploring the world. So basically this human baby is dropped into the middle of these kind of creatures and raised by them. So you're getting that kind of human perspective. That's our window into the world. Very, very cool. Just really, and like I said, this Hollow Press, they do some really nice additions. This is on sturdy, almost like cardstock covers and pages. So this is going to last a long time. It's no flimsy. You're not getting a flimsy book here, right? So it's well worth the money. But that was a super fun read, and they're really nice, simple reads too. Again, it's this whole kind of, like Jim Woodring, it's this immersive experience for me with some of these comics where I'm fully into that world when he's telling a story, and that art just completely draws you in. And it's just nice to get a kind of a beginning, middle, and end. Again, kind of the idea of there seems to be a new breed of indie artists where they've got a bit more of a handle on storytelling, where it's not just about making some pictures. It has something. There's some good story and context going along with it too.
It looks like it's an imagination of the story of Mowgli. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Because of the baby and creatures, and they reproduce and kind of animalistic
wolves kind of thing. Yeah.
So
yeah, and he never really says, like, it's not explicitly said that this is another planet or something. It's like an alternate universe of Earth. You know what I mean? It's never really said explicitly that this is some far off planet or some. But it's never explicitly said that it's Earth either. So it's this reimagining of our landscape pardon me, and things that are kind of, you know, familiar to us and just kind of retelling it.
Mhm.
Yeah, HoloPress has done a lot of good stuff. They did a lot of Brinkman stuff, and they've also done Tetsunori Tawaraya stuff to the Japanese artist that I'm absolutely infatuated with as well. They've done a lot of incredible things. There's some anthologies that HoloPress has put out that I haven't dipped my toes into yet. I think there's a 3-volume kind of anthology, but they do a lot of really, really great work, well worth looking out for, especially if you already live overseas. Maybe not so much if you live in North America, but if you have access to places like Floating World, just check out their website, because there are some places that distribute it here in North America.
I see. That JC guy is predominantly comic book artist, or is he just an artist or graphic designer, and then he went and delved into games and stuff? Or what is it he's like all
It seems like he's predominantly like an artist in comics, and then he has had an opportunity for game design too. I don't know a ton about him himself. I know he's Canadian, and I know that he kind of had a big hand in wanting to design a game for a long time. It took an incredibly long time to do so, but I think his kind of primary focus has been comics and that kind of art, and has kind of just branched off into other areas.
That's cool. That looks very nice.
Yep.
Mr. Damien.
Okay, do my screen share again.
Oh,
so this is my other digital comic I'll show you guys. You guys may or may not remember that W. Maxwell Prince is the writer of Haha and Ice Cream Man. And this digital service from my library also has 2 earlier graphic novels by him, which I totally missed their existence at the time. I think they might not have come out as individual issues, maybe just a graphic novel. So this one is called 1 Week in the Library. And so each chapter is a different week, and this guy is trapped in some endless library. He lives there, he sleeps there, and he reads books. And it's kind of reminiscent of the famous Borges story. Was that just called The Library? I can't remember. And then it's like Grant Morrison meets Borges is what I thought. And so each day of this week, he kind of interacts with something going on within a book.
Okay.
And we slowly learn that he, and they're all kind of bittersweet at the least, or slightly horrific. And a lot of them are referencing familiar books like Pinocchio, stories like Pinocchio here. It's kind of
Sleeping Beauty as well.
Was Sleeping Beauty in the last one, or?
Yeah. There was a couple of pages before. There was the clock and the candlestick. So yes.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
That's fine.
But so in each one, the book kind of comes out into the reality of the library and chats with the guy a bit. And eventually we learn that he has no memory of ever living anywhere but the library, and would like to find a way out.
Oh, I see.
And there's one section that has this written story, which he has also done in Ice Cream Man. I'm kind of racing towards the end. I hope so. If anyone wants to read this but doesn't, it's not like there's no twist ending, but it is sort of what he does at the end is interesting. So I'm just sorry I'm flipping so quickly. I'm trying to get to where I want to go. But so basically in the second to last chapter, he finds a doorway, like a doorway in Narnia or Alice in Wonderland, a doorway out, and The Matrix, which isn't a book. So he was cheating a bit there.
Yeah.
A doorway out of where he is. And he finds himself in a black and white world where he's a cubicle worker in a big company. And but then he discovers when he puts his glasses on, he sees people like they are characters from a book. Like that's Mr. Tumnus from Narnia.
Yeah.
And this is him at his corporate meeting, and everyone turns into Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, that's cool.
So at the end, he had been trying to escape the library, and now he wants to escape this cubicle life, and he goes back, of course, with the help of what's his name, Morpheus from
Matrix.
Matrix. So it's a little bit funny that this thing that's supposed to be all about books kind of
Went into another
goes
one.
big on that metaphor of
Mhm.
of the Matrix.
Yeah.
Of course, the Matrix was inspired by Philip K. Dick and other books like that. But
Mhm.
anyway, so and then the final chapter. So here I'm really going to give things away, in a sense. In the final chapter, he, like with Grant Morrison's Animal Man, he meets his maker. He opens a book that asks him to open it up, and inside is Maxwell Prince, W. Maxwell Prince.
Okay.
And they have a conversation. He talks about how he's not good at ending stories, and he talks about how every 2 pages you're supposed to have some physical action. So let's go out for a walk. And he actually refers to Grant Morrison.
Whoa.
But then goes on to say, you know, this trick of having the author appear in the story has been in all kinds of books before Grant Morrison. So it kind of, it's particularly interesting if you, like me, have read all the Ice Cream Man and the Ha Ha. You can see he's kind of confessing here to his weaknesses as a writer, which I think in those books that we've seen since, he's made into strengths.
Yeah.
His anxiety, his self-doubts, and his inability to do endings, because all of those, all of his best stories kind of end in a unfinished way. It's like, we don't know what's going to happen next, or, you know, he uses the fact that they're kind of unfinished as part of the horror of the story, so to speak. So I really enjoyed this a lot. Its art is kind of generic, but I think if you can find it somewhere, it's worth reading.
I like the art. I think it's really.
It's not bad art, but it's a little more generic than what I'm used to from some of his other books.
Yeah, it's not like but that's the Sleeping Beauty in the corner there. It tells you that.
Oh, you're right there it is.
Yeah, and there's the clock and the candlestick. So
yeah, so and I'm a sucker for this kind of stories within stories and all of that.
Yeah. It looks good. Oh, who the artist? Does it tell you on the page? Because I'm kind of curious just to.
Yeah, let me just go back to the cover.
We should mention.
Yeah, he's not he did. They did 2 graphic novels together. John Amor.
Okay.
I haven't really heard of him elsewhere.
No.
I think he might have done the colors too. Does it say? No, the colorist is Catherine Leno. I haven't heard of her either. The cover art was by Fraser Irving.
Okay.
So I think this would have been more successful or more well known if they released it as single issues first. But I can see why they wanted to do it all as one volume. So yeah, I hadn't thought much about what had Maxwell Prince done before Ice Cream Man. But it is interesting how his work is so. It's like a hall of mirrors, right? And this is another set of mirrors for looking at his work.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much all I can say about it.
I like that. I like sometimes, like depends of the story, how it tells, like we're reading, but art is, if it's, what it is, if you know the stories, it does represent all the, like it's kind of hard, like every single book, every single character, Alice in Wonderland, that and this, and Sleeping Beauty, all that stuff.
That's true.
It's difficult if it's somebody have a little bit overly artistic style. So let's say this way. So portrayal that information would be a bit more like, I need to think about it first. Of course, you will probably, maybe colors will help you that. But I think sometimes it helps to tell you, it depends what story you're telling, what kind of art you choose as well. I do like when I exactly see what I'm supposed to see, like what that creator wanted to portray. It's kind of
That's true. That he gives a clear illustrative style to a very abstract story is exactly. You have a very good point. It helps a lot. I think I'm a bit spoiled by all these great artists that we find, and so then the just good workman-like artist gets the shaft by me.
It's a pity sometimes. As I say, we are like in this day and age, we're having so many great stars of artistic levels that are coming through, that when you see whoever is really actually good at it, very good at it, but doesn't stand out, it's a problem.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's all alive what we do, like you want to be in the spotlight, but if somebody doesn't like really notice you just because you're good at it, it's not good enough anymore, kind of thing, and that's kind of scary, especially if the person is worked hard to create something, and you can't be like the one who's like, oh my god, I didn't have that like amazing brush stroke or something, they can become paranoid and stuff like that. So I am gonna mention the Barbarian.
Architectural Foam Panel said The Library of Babylon. I think that is the name of the famous Borges story.
I see.
And there's a lot of other writers who've played with Borges's ideas there.
Okay.
It's almost a genre into itself now.
So I'm gonna talk about that elusive comic I wasn't getting in the post, and I'm talking about this. So thank you, Damien. As I said, I wasn't expecting, when you said like it's like the postage prices, it's just like gives me a bit of nightmares.
I know, I'm just stubborn.
Yeah,
I hate to make mistakes.
But I read straight to, like, on the day I received it. I read it not all the way through. It's quite a long story, to be honest. And I was surprised that it's all the way through, like the whole magazine. Sometimes I always expect magazines to be like divided in stories, but this one went continuously all the way. Okay, I'm gonna show something, and I cannot unsee it. I don't know why I'm seeing that. It's so weird, but you see that end, okay, and where it's placed. I don't think I have to. I don't have to mention what it is, but I can't.
I never noticed that. That's hilarious.
We all know what a sword represents, right? Boys like to play with swords.
Yeah, it's a very feminine sword he's got going on there.
Yeah, so yeah, it was kind of weird to see that. But anyway, but I really like the story. What I read, okay, I love the art. I straight away told you, like, I get familiarized with the Barry Windsor, and I really like throughout the story. And actually, to be honest, I was thinking, well, I wanted it in color, but I really liked the story in black and white, to be honest. The way, and like, you don't need to have in color to know the story, and you like, but in black and white tells you the artistic part of the artist, like all this physique of Conan was just splendid, to be honest. That chest is marvelous. but the story itself, and I was very surprised because, of course, straight away I'm on the female side straight away. Okay, the minute Conan mentions her as a wench, she's like, I hate you. This is it. It's just maybe my feminist side just goes, it's like, okay, you're a douche. You're the douche. She's right. You're the douche. It doesn't matter what you want. And then it's just like plainly says in the story, like, okay, I just want one thing and one thing only. And she's like, what? What do you think? Who do you think you are? But I am barbarian, kind of thing. It's like, no siree, kind of thing. So, but then they get in trouble. And then there's this creature, which is like dragon. They call it dragon. It's basically like a dinosaur creature looking at.
Right, it's a dinosaur.
It's an absolutely massive creature. And then they're hiding from it. So in my understanding, Conan just was looking for her for no, like, just because he wanted some boob or like some sexual pleasantries. He just followed her like a creep.
Yes, he was creeping on her.
Oh my God. So that's why I hate him. Anyway, so the story I didn't like, this is like a typical kind of what I expect your barbarian story will go. You have a barbarian, you have a creature they want to defend because they want to save themselves from. But then it turns in a point where I really was surprised because I really enjoyed that part. So while they defeating it and trying to escape it, they see this. Like in the background, they see the city or I don't know. It is a city, but you're seeing this dwelling in the middle of the desert, and they're trying to basically escape and see where they can basically hide out. And they go in there, and then they're discussing about which age it is from and why there's nothing they can see, no smoke in the air and nothing. There's like nobody lives there. It's like the mystery part, and then it clicked. Like, okay, this is it. I like it. That mystery part. I just like this. It's actually. had very creepy vibes into the story. It added that, you enter the door, it's so empty, there's nobody in there, and you're like, Jesus, what they gonna see? And that kind of part where you, after reading so many comics, well, now comparison to what I used to be reading before, my imagination is getting better. So I guess that comic's doing really good. So I was like, oh yeah, there's like a movie, like that noises kind of thing, like creepy, like opening the door, and you're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And then they found this, that there's a feud between two tribes in this amazing place. It looks like almost like a, I don't know, like a whole, like a whole like city, like big city embodied in behind the walls. Almost very manga-esque, to be honest. Like the like Attack on Titans is kind of similar. You have your settlement part where you have this high walls, and where everybody's hiding inside and living their normal life. But this one is like everything is enclosed, but it just have the same kind of vibe in it. But and what happens and how it happens and how she is, I love that, because I was like, I would read her. Like now,
Yeah.
you see, you have Conan here, but Conan is like, for me, in the background. It's all about her. She discovers the guy. She starts to help him. The guy is like the one of the tribe members she's helping. He's really weak, like he's like, and she's there, like a sword, like almost like female version of Conan. Even like I actually a bit more maybe clever in her head, rather.
Yeah,
to be
she's
honest.
smarter than he is.
Yeah, she has that wit, and so yeah, and that element of like mystical part where the skull is burning and she's defeating, like you can see in here, she crushing it to the point of like no return, because otherwise it's gonna come back. So yeah, it's really very good, and it's continues, and how it, of course, it ended in a nice way. I think like always, like Conan's like, he does the job, they both do the job, they happy with whatever happens, and they're glad to go away from there, because basically they are all crazy people. So yeah, really, thank you. Honestly, I was surprised to see that part of being barbarians, Conan, getting into that kind of like sci-fi-ish element of that buildings in like that, dealing with this kind of ancient tribes who are trying to survive and stuff like that, and then how she is, and I really like her as a character. I really do. But I presume she never been anywhere else, or was she?
They tried to make a solo book for her just recently.
Oh, is it?
And I bought it, and it wasn't that good, though.
Oh, jeez.
I bought some issues that I haven't read yet, so maybe it
Yeah.
got better.
Yeah.
And she may have made one or two other appearances in all of his hundreds of Marvel comics. That particular one, she is a creation of Robert E. Howard. That's an adaptation of one of his stories.
So is this the issue originally being printed on?
No, that's another reprint issue.
Okay.
It originally came in Savage Tales #2 and Savage Tales #3.
Okay. Okay.
2 parts.
I see.
And it was the final Conan, to my knowledge, that Barry Smith drew.
Okay.
And
did they?
and so it was an adaptation of a novella by the original author, Robert E. Howard.
So you've never been in color, I presume then.
I think Dark Horse colorized it.
Oh, is it? Wow. Interesting.
So I think I have a version in like a hardback that Dark Horse put out that they colorized. And maybe someone else has reprinted a colorized version. Actually, another one that I gave you guys with Conan getting crucified. I don't know if you don't have to have read it, but
wait, no, the other one. Yeah, I've read that one.
They did colorize that one and put it in the Treasury edition that I just bought the other day when I was comic book hunting with Sam.
Yeah.
And it didn't need color. I mean, these things have been drawn to be black and white. I mean, and they knew what they were doing. But,
the story with the sisters, yeah?
The two sisters. That one is very sexist, right? Or maybe sexist is the wrong word. Very S&M almost.
But man, it's a good story, man, because that was
it's
another
very
one
intense.
that I read.
It's very intense.
Yeah, it's a hell of a story.
But back to Rasa, what you're saying about that city, and I think they're decadent because they've been inbreeding for thousands of years.
Yeah.
One of the things I really like about the original Conan stories and most of the Roy Thomas ones is that sense of layers of history.
Yeah.
Like, not only is the age that Conan lives in before our recorded history, there's actually like 10 or 15,000 years of history before.
Yeah.
And there's an age, like, I don't know, I'm just guessing, 10,000 years before, that was totally ruled by a few sort of wizards who had tapped into a Cthulhu-like world of magic. And so little bits of that are still left in the world that Conan stumbles across here or there.
Yeah.
And he usually doesn't understand what he's come across. But sometimes there's other characters in the stories who kind of have a sense of that history. So that story was a good example of that. They sort of stumble across that dinosaur, and then they stumble across this city that has been cut off from the rest of humanity for a really long time.
Yeah.
And that just makes it more, I don't know, that makes it more interesting to me than just this barbarian going around killing people.
But I think this is one of my favorite Conan stories, just because of her, I guess.
Yes, she's one. Well, she and Red Sonja are the two strong female characters, Ab and Conan.
And I think that's
honestly,
why,
Rasa, you should read the Red Nails, the new mini series that came out, because her character is even more badass in kind of these mini series that are it's way better. Like, I found her portrayal and Conan's portrayal a surprise as well in that story. But she's portrayed even more badass in this kind of mini series. It's highly, I'd strongly recommend it.
So what? Who like somebody republished it in different artists or something?
They're redoing these the European, and I don't have them close to me, so names are gonna escape me. But these kind of series of mini series that are coming out.
They call it the Sumerian because they can't.
Daughter. Right.
Oh, okay.
In English, they can't put the name Conan on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
So this smaller company called Ablaze is doing translations of it for the American and British market.
So, so the rights are the Marvel has the Conan name, right?
Right.
Or, because the Robert E. Howard is freely available to everybody, isn't it? As far.
Yeah, so I've kind of wondered about that because the French haven't done their own stories. Maybe you can only adapt the stories that are out of copyright. But you can't make up your own new ones because there's still, I don't know, I'm just guessing.
Interesting.
So Marvel has the license from Conan Properties.
I see.
Which it's kind of disturbing, because there was a reason why things go out of copyright, so that eventually culture can just absorb those things and new generations of creators aren't held back by those copyright laws. But with Hollywood and stuff, there's ways around it, I guess.
In Europe is published, or not in America.
Yeah. So the original stories, those stories from the pulps, are from the 1930s. So they're out of copyright. I think you get 70 years after the death of the writer for copyrights for the estate. But then, because Conan became movies and comic books and stuff, someone started a company.
Toy Turns. Give me a second.
There's that's the cover of one of them. So that Ablaze.
Yeah, that I saw you showing, isn't it? You or Damien, you both had it, didn't you?
I don't have Red Nails, but I have another one.
Yeah.
I think you have the Frost
I have
Giant's Daughter. I think Damien is
the Frost Giant's Daughter, and now I have People of the Black Circle.
Yeah,
I think that's what it's called.
I'm definitely gonna have to look at it if you say about that. But her female portrayal is even more stronger than it is in there.
Yeah, it's great. I really enjoyed that story too. Like, it was nice to see the other version of it, because I think it's a great story for a lot of the reasons Damien was talking about. This idea of this society kind of cut off that's been existing, and of course Conan and her coming in and destroying the dragon like it's no big deal, to which they just go crazy about, and it's pretty cool. And then the betrayal and stuff like that. It's a good story.
Yeah, that man, the king of that one of the tribes. That's like it crawled. It looks exactly how I was like. There's some males like when they age. Okay, I'm not saying anything against you guys, but there's some males they creepy. Okay, like really
Yeah.
creepy. You're like, you can't. You're like, oh no, I don't want you to say hello. No, no.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, and they look at you like, oh, I want to say hello to you. It's like, no, 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 please don't look at me.
Not
like,
Ethel, of
it-
course. Like Damien and
No,
me,
no.
we're just,
I wouldn't
yeah.
be talking to you guys if that would be a
Yeah.
stupid thing of it. But I'm saying there's some men portray that kind of creepy vibe for no reason. I don't know
Yeah.
what reason, but they do kind of show that. But anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
it's maybe too much movies and all that depictions of a creeps who's talking in
Yeah.
and they mostly kind of aged, to be honest.
They just get creepier
Anyway.
with age.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying I'm not trying to depict that in generalized, but because now everybody was like, oh, you hate males now. It's like, no.
No, you're on record. That's it.
Shush.
Well, I mean, we did used to give men license to do things that
Yeah.
Yeah.
now seem pretty awful. And so the
Yeah,
older
totally.
generation of men probably has greater expectations of that than we do.
Yeah. So, Mr. Crackydack, please show us
I
something.
don't know. This one appealed to
Oh.
me. This was a fantastic read. So this Peter yeah, of course I'm not going to find it. It's fine. Anyway, there was a series of these double digests that he had a hand in. So I think the first one was a Western. This one is a detective one, and I think the third one is going to be or not going to be. I think it's out already. A horror. I think this was the only one that came out from this really easy press, though. So a flip book, and then on the other side is another creator. The kind of contrast in style is one of the things that's really appealing about it. It was a great. Again, it was another example of some stellar art with actually a pretty decent story, as kind of exploitive is maybe the wrong word, but I don't know. It was a good story. It was just well written, kind of mystery. The big love triangle is what this one's called. The printing itself, just using the pink. I think it's all risograph printed. And our detective here, because of this pink, he's drinking Pepto-Bismol, is his drink of choice. But literally, like a couple of moments where I laughed out loud. And one of the moments where I laughed out loud was when he comes to the artist and this artist that they're kind of talking to about the missing roommate. And he talks about, his art and what does this look like to you? God damn it, it looks like a busted mirror trying to pass as something profound. And then just the way he speaks as an artist, I thought it got a legitimate laugh out of me. Really entertaining, so much so that I looked up some more of his stuff.
Wow.
He does have a website, and he did a book called The Hand of Misery that looks great as well. But I want to find more of it. And then the flip side, we get another sort of detective comic from another creator whose name is Drew Lehrman, I think, Lerman. And I guess this is two characters that he has kind of worked with a lot in comics. So this is my introduction to him and his characters. But a really nice style. Some great dialogue and just kind of taking those kind of detective comic and story tropes and not really making fun of them, but using them just in their own way. Super entertaining. So this one, as someone that who has been cryogenically, her father, who has been kind of frozen to be Walt Disney-fied at some later point, and his head goes missing, and there's this big story around that. So this was really, really fun, really quality printing as well, because some of the other thing that happens with these kind of books, I mean, this has got a $10 price tag on it. You're still getting 22, 24 pages of story. But I mean, you're getting something that's been really nicely produced, because the quality on this cover is beautiful, and it's really easy press. I think it's really-easy-press.com. They've got a lot of pretty cool looking books, actually. Another one of those companies that I'd like to order from more. I just ordered this from them. It came really quick.
So this is fairly current?
I
mean, when you first mentioned it, I thought it was like one of these old undergrounds you dug up.
2020.
No, 2020
Okay.
is this one. Yeah. So there's their names there: Peter Fake, Faecke, and Drew Lerman.
So this
really,
seems like
really
another
great.
example of people who managed to land the narrative aspect of things along with just the
100%.
underground art.
Absolutely. And some really crazy art, like some really nice style. And again, like because everything is pink, just has this nice quality to the whole thing. I was impressed. The first few that I've read here from these kind of orders that came in. There you go. I thought he was a neighbor of Ryan. I thought he lived close to Ryan. Just a really nice introduction to a load of comics that I just don't know about.
That head you just showed, it reminds me of Beavis and Butthead, and I can't just like, Jesus.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. Okay, cool.
Yeah, super entertaining. And then this, he's got his own site, which is the Stink Hole, all one word, storenvy.com, where he's got a lot of his stuff for sale.
I see. Cool.
Oh,
I wonder if we'll
Ryan.
start discovering Ryan hidden in panels of some of these comics.
Yeah.
So entrenched.
Yeah, he's saying that he was a George Floyd Square adjacent resident as well too. So right in that neighborhood.
Intense neighborhood to be in.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Mr. Damien, what would you show to us?
Okay, well, far more mainstream, but from Vault Comics, so at least it's not Marvel or DC or Image. This is the penultimate issue of their comic Resonant, which is written by David Andry and art by Skylar Partridge, and very notable to me, coloring by Jason Wordy. He may be someone to keep an eye out, when you're missing the colorist from Criminal. I forgot her name, Elizabeth Breitweiser.
Yeah.
He goes for very bright colors, but he has that same kind of the painterly quality to his colors without overwhelming the line art. I really like. So as you guys may or may not have noticed, right now from the sort of mainstream indie comics are tons and tons of post-apocalyptic comics. And I've decided that of all of them that I'm reading currently or read recently, Resonant seems to be the best one. Now, I am waiting to see if they land it with the final issue, and then I would definitely tell everybody to go out there who's interested in this type of thing and that this is the one to get. It's the apocalypse is based on psychological waves. Like every so often, I think they get a warning when they hear all the crickets chirping or something, or they hear a humming, and then everyone goes insane for an hour. And different people have reacted to this in different ways. And so people go psychotically insane. Most people get, lots of people get murdered and stuff like that. They're making out on this cover. So in this issue, one of the things that our hero discovers a society that seems to be able to control these waves of psychosis by giving in to all their urges all the time. So they're having orgies all the time. And there's other societies that are little groups that embrace the psychosis in other ways. And then there's religious groups who, are depending on their religion to help them. But the main driving plot is the father got separated from his children. They were carefully surviving in the woods, separate from other people, because it's other people that are going to kill you when the waves of psychosis come. But then the father was forced to try to go find medicine for one of his sick children, and he got separated. He ended up getting shipwrecked and enslaved, and now he's in this orgy town. So maybe for me, being a parent, that separation from your children when you can't protect them and all of that. So we have two tracks of the story: what's happening to the father, what's happening to the children, and then this incredible art and color. So it's very, very tense. I am for the most part getting very cynical about post-apocalyptic books. Everyone is doing one right now. Like Jeff Johns just started one this past few weeks.
It's like the zombie book of modern day. It's just overdone. It feels like sometimes.
Right. At one point vampires were overdone. One point zombies were overdone. Now it's post-apocalyptic scenarios. I mean, granted, you can come up with a lot of different things for your post-apocalypse, but
for sure.
Not all of them work. So anyway, I wanted to highlight Resonant. It was one of the best comics I read this week, although there were a lot of good comics this week. But something to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
I'm waiting for next week. Hopefully I will receive my couple of comic books. I'm really pissed off with that serial stuff. It pisses me off. It's like
comic keeps having problems, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's my comic guy is like, I'm trying to get you that number 2. It's like, because there's number 3. He's gonna give me number 3. It's like, what? So should I buy? Like, I'm thinking in my head, should I do this? He's like, should I commit to number 3 if I don't get number 2? But I want to I want to support the guy. Okay, there's one of the new comic books I buy who's creates his own stuff, and I really want to do that in singles because I know they get more chunk of money out of singles when it is from the trades or paperbacks, whatever. I mean, he does his own ways and dealing with stuff, but just want to support it. But it drives me nuts because I want that number. I'm just ranting for some reason. I don't know.
I heard Terry Moore say that Serial comes chronologically before, what do you call it?
Rachel Rising.
Rachel Rising. So
interesting.
I couldn't tell. I only read the first issue and decided to wait for trade. I couldn't tell when it happened from that first issue.
No, I couldn't even. I mean, I love Rachel Rising. I couldn't tell. I mean, I just know that Zoe is in there, which that's why she's one of my favorite characters. And having her in the title was like, oh my god, I was like jumping from happiness. But now, anyway, just those troublesome problems with the suppliers and getting you that stuff. So. I don't know if I should. I did read that one. So in here, it's a good story. It's a bit more darker because the guy in here is this. I'm just not. Okay, I'm gonna even show you the art in here. It's all the same. It has the same things. Just this time we have a Conan part of, and this is so lovely. That
so
page is
good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the amazing things in here. It starts kind of similarly. This time it just jumps with this barbarian story in here. And then we have a story of this. So I read this one right after I was reading, I have to tell you that. So I don't have number 1 and number 2 issues of The Criminal. But I started reading this. So when I read that Fang magazine first, I started to see what I have in my collection, and then I decided that I want more Criminal because I just started to be curious about the characters. Is it as good as the magazine was and stuff like that? So I checked out whatever I had, and apparently I have first one, but not issue 1 or 2. Went online, got those number 1 and 2. Had to pay for the digital editions, which is irks me. But I had to do it. So I started reading the story. And when I started reading the story, this really did feel like it was before this, which is true, because this is the depiction of whatever happens after the daddy's life. So I don't know how he decided to, I don't know what's the chronological order of the story itself, because I was a bit confused. Because this, I know this came out way before anything else I've read. So then he decided what to establish more story. He's showing you a little bit more of the background of the daddy, the bad guy. But that's just the way I felt it. But it tells you a story when Teague Lawless, which is the daddy, he's in jail because of whatever job he done. He got busted in the wrong time, wrongdoing, and he got in the jail. He thinks he's gonna escape, but then somebody who he pissed off. He got money on his head. So everybody, inmates and in the prison, wanted to kill him. And then you see a basic, like a survival of him. And it's kind of like really gruesome. Like he uses this magazine with a shiv and stabs it into the guy's eye. And it's like, oh, dude, that's like hardcore. But, like he's the guy who's experience of life of being criminal. So, and he's really nasty. And I still hate him even more. Now knowing everything, whatever he's been doing and how he's treating his own wife and 2 kids. It's like, like he's saying like, oh, I wasn't brought up right because of my daddy used to be a dickhead kind of thing like that. So I'm going to do the same thing. Anyway. What I like the story in here, which really helped actually being so dark, is that he reading this magazine and he's like, oh, look, I need another one copy because I ruined it one. And he's like, okay, let me see. And I have him in the library. And then he's like, yeah, I know why you're reading this copy. And he's like, what? Titties, eh? Do you like those titties? He's like, and he's like, yeah, for sure. And then it's just that laughter a little bit in the storyline really helped, to be honest, to read continuously through, because, when you have the gruesome and the kind of one situation story where it's only in the prison, really. It's just one story in the prison. You would think that it becomes a little bit boring, but action-wise, it was great. And where he had to endure all this beating up because somebody put money on his head. So, and art-wise in here, it looks so much less polished than is the first one, that the Fang one I was reading. The Fang is just a star of the whole criminal so far for me from Sean Phillips. I don't know what they did, why he felt like it's so important for him to tell that story, but it really helped. I'm not saying it's bad overall, but I think it's just in my books, it was one of my favorite stuff. So really good. So you guys maybe can tell me about the teaks, that why Sean Phillips decided to disclose the information about Daddy way after, years later, after the original Criminal series came out. You guys know?
I think he just thinks of it as this tapestry of characters, and when he thinks of a new story, he doesn't worry about the chronological thing. He just suddenly has a new insight about the character, so he goes ahead and does the story at whatever time. So in all my criminal reading, which is still not complete, I just never know where we're going to fit into it. One
of the things I want to show you in the panels, I really like that when they can't beat him, okay? They really cannot beat him, and they tried their best, and what they decide to do is to drug him. So basically give you LSD, I think, something like that, and he's lose completely his, he doesn't know what's happening around him. Yeah, but then this librarian dude, one in prison, the guys who works in library, he basically helps him, and that's a good part, you just as shit as you are, one conversation in library, in prison, really saved your bloody whole life just because of one common thing, the magazine. So this is basically a star of a story at the end of the day, in my opinion, because this has basically helped him to be still alive and then still doing quite a shitty things, whatever he did it in this story. So really good. I mean, as I say, love format, and it's just kicked in, as I said, that reading of this criminal, and I thoroughly, I'm so glad. So I had to thankfully I only had to buy issue 1 and 2 in the digital, because I had all the rest of it. So it's 10 issue series, and I had the rest of that. I was like, oh, thank God, so I can actually read, because I was having a kick. Then you have that kick of that story, and you're like, okay, so what's going on? And then you get in this story, and you find out about that, what they call them? It doesn't say in here. Not on the cover. Oh no, it doesn't say on the covers. It's how we called him. I forgot the name what they gave to the Leo character. A coward. Yeah, a coward.
Oh, the coward one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I did not read them in individual issues. The cover looks very different. I didn't realize we're looking at Coward.
Yeah, that's the issue 4, and you have the basically is the first. Is it? Yeah, the first 5 issues was of the Coward story, of Leo introduction in the storyline. And then from issue 6, you had a Lola story where he introduced to the boy. Spoiler alert. The boy from the Fang magazine. that's him. I was like, oh my God, I'm so surprised because like, really, you turned up this part? But knowing the daddy, kind of know what's happening in here. And then you have, it's, as I say, I'm just going to continue. I'm just going to show you because it's the same thing while I was reading. So there's no point in me going back again and talking with you about criminal again. So anyway, so this Lawless story was fantastic. That introducing of him as a main guy, basically, who has been escaping. Really, he did escape his dad. And not dad, really, dad died, but then he escaped alive. And then he went into army, and you think that this guy would not let it be like army, kind of like old, following the rules, but it seems to be that what really helped him and became this badass guy who is trying to find his brother's killer, who is dead. And I was kind of like, oh, okay, so we're not going to, because we had daddy's, like, because I read, like, you have daddy's story now, you have your brother's story, and I was like, oh, he's dead, the brother. But then we had a story of this brother's death slightly mentioned in this Coward story, because Leo is a friend with Ricky, and Ricky Teague Lawless was the brother of, which I forgot the name now, of this brother. So so
right. Really... Isn't Cruel Summer, which just came out recently, finally they tell the story of his death, which is like years and years later they tell the story of
So this is Ricky's story then?
Right, yeah. And I think, like, just to speak on what you were saying before, it feels like for Brubaker, he did the criminal series. From what I understand, some of these characters, he had stories, like he had the story written or in his mind for a long time. It just kind of gestated. He feels like he's that kind of writer where he really got into that world, that criminal world, and all of these stories started developing. So as it kind of went on, it just kind of more and more. And honestly, like, if you love those ones, you'll love Cruel Summer. It's a fantastic read. It's really, really good, especially because it gives you, it's the story of Teague and the story of Ricky, right? So, and it's a full, thick volume, and you just get a lot of really, really great reading in that. But he feels like that's the kind of writer that he is. It's just some of these ideas, it takes him a while because it's got to gestate. It's got to kind of work through his brain and come up with something that's going to fit the characters, right?
So basically what people who hasn't read those, follow the 3 single issues, actually are winners, because they are getting so much information straight away. You can actually go online now, find the people who knows chronological order. You go look for it and you just read it. Of course, you can find it the way you want to read this. That's the problem with this. Like, getting this in the single issues was a chore for me when I was just doing, like those comic marts and stuff. Every single time I saw a criminal, I just picked it up just because you never know when I'm going to be able to find another one issue because of I know why it's so popular. It's kind of, you get involved in the storyline. In this Leo character, it seems to be comic dropped. He is so. It seems to be also having the same kind of type of life, and the way they're saying they're in the same neighborhood, they're friends, and suddenly their daddies were the criminals, and they next generation criminals. And then how this guy Coward, even though he says he's coward, how he is and how he had to survive in order not to be in prison or not being shot dead, but then and when he decides to do a good thing, ends up being shot. And I was like, and then I was reading another thing what I want to tell you about, guys. So this has completely gone into like my whole fascination, the whole week of this criminal stuff, because I was reading some back matter of one of these issues, and Brubaker had a conversation with 6 or 5 writers as well. So about what they enjoy about the type of a pulp noir storytelling. And they were talking about the movies. What kind of like recommendations do you think? What inspired you? Like sometimes writing the stories, what gave you like the kickoff going into movies? And one of the things they were mentioning, it was Point Blank. And I was like, okay, let's see. What's the fuss? You give me you talk about these recommendations in the back of the comic books. So Dragon, my husband's like, have you ever heard about Point Blank? And I was like, huh? 1970s detective noir story. I'm noir. I like noir a lot. I like 1970s particularly because it depicts San Francisco or LA area in 1970s, and it's very pretty in that time when they were creating the movies because of a color choice. So we watched the Point Blank, And honestly, it was fantastic. I was like,
Yeah,
whoa.
great.
And me and my husband were like, I think we want more. So now
Yeah.
we're looking. The next one we're watching on that recommendation list. They were talking about kind of thing. It's called a Charlie Worker. Charlie Worker. It's
Yeah.
another 1970s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna next on the watching list. It will be that. We
Yep.
that Walter Matthau
Walter
actor.
Matthau. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see him in that kind of a role because of the role he's going to be in that movie. So, anyway, yeah,
Then
great stories.
You gotta go to I got lists for you. There's so much. The Outfit, I think, is another one that's really good. There's the Friends of Eddie Coyle, which is highly recommended to watch. So great. Yeah, you're in for a treat.
Yeah, because that Point Blank was perfect because of at first we didn't know what's going on. It really was blank, like really kind of like this guy is in Alcatraz, done the business with his friend, and then Alcatraz in that time was closed already. And then they basically is trying to like steal. He has his wife, his friend, and himself doing this deal happening, and then his wife cheats kind of with the other guy, and he gets shot in Alcatraz, and then he's in the middle of nowhere. Okay, Alcatraz, and you have to like that water is really apparently really cold. I'm not sure. It's like that ocean. Is it the Pacific Ocean? Isn't it next to it? I know.
The Pacific Ocean can get very cold.
Yeah, exactly. So he's there shot, and he's like swims, and we were like, is he dead? And we're seeing his imagination of that revenge in his own brain, or he's actually there and like survived that swim. And me and my husband were like just guessing all the time, and it's really good. As I say, really enjoyed it. Terrence, you watched that Point Blank? Have you seen it before?
I have seen it. Yeah, I've seen a few of that was one of the treats going through the single issues. I haven't seen all of the stuff they talk about, but there was a number of things they talked about that I've seen, and it's all just phenomenal stuff. Again, it's in my sweet spot of I love crime fiction. I love the 70s movies. It's I'll send you a couple of titles as well to dry out for.
The one thing really amazed me is that the noir sense to it, but they always were never afraid of choosing the color, and I love it. The female, the redheaded, not the one who the wife was just there, but the redheaded female, the outfit she was using was matching with her, and it looked so good in that scenes they were picking. I was like, oh, I would read that kind of comic book, to be honest, because it's just beautiful. So
cool.
Anyway, so that's my.
That's exciting.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Okay, Terrence, your turn.
Bloody Stump Samurai. Dude, this was phenomenal. In the world of manga, like I don't know a ton about it, and what's his name? Ryan Holmberg kind of did the translation for this edition, and there's an essay by him in here as well too that I've worked my way through, but I feel like I need to read it again. This is an exceptional book. It's intense. It goes into areas that really surprised me. There's a lot of conversation about different classes of people and how they're discriminated against. I wish that I knew, like I said, I've read through one of the essays, and I feel like I don't quite have a grasp on it yet, so I hesitate to talk in too much detail about that. This is Retrofit is another kind of small indie publisher there. They've got a couple of things by Holmberg that he's had a hand in getting the translation. So I think this was, and Ryan will correct me, I think that this is 1962 that this came out, and it got into a lot of hot water, and it was kind of banned. There's a lot of, it's just filled with violence, but it's this really driven samurai who at the beginning, the introduction, so by no means a spoiler, literally in page 2, it's him breaking down, feeling betrayed by his master, and killing his master.
Oh no!
In a very, again, page 3, so not a spoiler by any stretch. This is the setup to our whole story before we kind of go backwards in time to kind of see where everything came, to the degree of this is what he's done to his master.
Whoosh.
Hear ye scoundrels, I will kill you all, and a message to everybody within that kind of dojo, I guess, that he's coming for all of them. And at first you just don't know what it is. So when we start getting introduced to the backstory, he's very focused in how he wants his training. He's getting beaten on a regular basis in these kind of training fights, but he won't stop. They literally have to stop the fights, because even though he's covered in blood, he wants to keep going again to kind of really force himself to become kind of this master samurai. And like I said, once you get into the meat of what's driving him and kind of some of the subtext and some of the history of things that were going on at that time, and talk to his master, who kind of takes him under his wing, and the sense of betrayal that he feels. It's an impactful story, and it goes to such extremes. And from that point on, I won't tell you anything, but it goes to such extremes that it surprised the hell out of me. It almost has these kind of horror elements to it. It's this Gekiga, I think, is the style, this dramatic style of manga, but it goes to kind of incorporate some of these almost horror elements, and then these almost I don't know, man, just this kind of really strange elements come into it, and these intense elements of how he kind of exacts his revenge and things, and what kind of character he becomes. Really highly recommended. And again, like if you go to, they say in the essay, in the first essay, he talks about it being introduced to East India as kind of into Hindi. It gets translated into Hindi, and they say that it's the first manga that got translated into Hindi, is what he's talking about in here. To no avail. It he had whatever 1,000 copies made up and sold maybe 50 or something like that. It just didn't translate. The idea being that they were going to introduce comics, which to a world that had tons of comics of their own already. So I guess Ryan Holmberg has had a hand in a few things, and a couple of them you can find on Retrofit. I've already started looking, and I'm going to be grabbing more, because he feels like a guy, he's really inserted in that kind of culture and knows some of the titles that deserve an English translation. So I trust his judgment at this point, because this was an incredibly strong read. Another one of those that I pretty much read in one sitting, but when it got to the end, I was genuinely shocked at kind of where it went to. It was a genuine surprise to me, the intensity, but a hell of a story. And again, reading the essays, kind of getting that, what the politics were like at the time for this group of people, and the trouble that this faced at that time in the 60s is interesting back matter to the whole thing.
Cool.
Yeah, super cool.
Look, so it's like a manga style reading, yes, from left to right.
Right. Totally, yeah. So for the manga itself, you start from the back and you're going from top right, and then for the essays, they've done it kind of more traditional North American style for the essays, just to make it that extra little bit of confusing, I guess. But really, really strong storytelling. Really cool.
Yeah, cool, great. Looks so actually. So you're having really big kick out of samurais these days, eh?
I mean, that's the thing, like I've always loved samurai stuff, and I've always loved that kind of thing, but it feels like I moved away from it and explored a bunch of other stuff, and then coming back to it, I realized why I loved it. And again, it really ties into the spaghetti westerns and the western genre, you know what I mean? Like this lone samurai coming out to kind of, not in this story necessarily, but well, I guess to some degree, again, don't want to spoil anything, but this idea of a lone samurai coming out of nowhere to set right a whole bunch of wrongs, just like in a western, like the lone gunman coming in to set the town straight, you know what I mean? It's and they're not quite good, but they're also not bad guys, kind of living in that gray area. But he's possessed. I would say that this character is possessed, which is also part of the problem that was kind of historically how they were portraying him as kind of this part of this kind of lower class. There was a lot of kind of stereotypes that he was doing. His point was to show that discrimination is just fucking ridiculous, and why would you even think about it? But he was using some of those tropes in a way that led people to believe that he was feeding into that. You know, you weren't portraying these people in a positive light. You were kind of falling into the trap of also portraying them as like animals, et cetera, right? So really, really great.
Cool. I always like seeing what you read, but I always, the ones you find them, especially those like quirky samurai stories, it's not so easy to find on even online browsing. It's like,
well,
damn
especially
it.
stuff like this when it's put out by these really small companies. I don't know how many they printed, but I don't think Retrofit is printing a lot of stuff, because I mean they're not a huge publisher, right? They're a very small publisher. So I don't know how many they're printing. So, and again, the recommendation to me is just go straight to the source, because they still have it available. It's $20 US. I don't know what their shipping is overseas, but honestly, just go right to Retrofit. Don't even bother going to like secondary markets. Just support the indie publisher is what I would say.
Yeah. You see, Scott Connor asks if you read Shaolin Cowboy. Yes,
I sure
he did.
still have. Yeah. If
You're
you
a
go
fan
back
of
in both Rasa
Jeff Darrow.
and my history, and Damien as well, you'll see many videos talking about Shaolin Cowboy.
Yeah.
Rasa's the one who got me into Shaolin Cowboy.
Oh, I love that. Oh,
Yeah.
he's the one
It's the
regret
best.
I have is that every single time when they decide for some random reason release the Shaolin Cowboy statues or whatever, they have one with like actual cloth, like his outfit and everything. And I still, I don't know, it's one of those, you know, like Giant Size X-Men is one regret I always have. I think that is the one, because I just love the character so much, and just Jeff Darrow is just amazing in that anyway. But the character itself, that guy who looks like has this belly, but he moves like a crazy man. And the depiction of him being like, you know, like that fat kind of like samurai almost in a way, but the way he fights and stuff, that's just. But
it took
Terrence,
me forever to find issue 1 of the Burly Man series, like the original series. It took me a long time to finally find issue number 1.
I remember I was looking for that, and I was so frustrated, but I was so determined to get them. And then I found there's some, you know, like when you start finding stuff, like whatever you're looking for, you find them, and then suddenly you see them everywhere, and it just drove me like, why there's everywhere? I was looking for years, like it took me a couple of years to actually find that Burning Man original run, because they were in like that publishing house where not many people have, but it's a fantastic. Absolutely
fantastic. Well, they only
fantastic.
did a few titles too. They didn't do a lot of stuff for their existence.
I think they did something from Wachowski Brothers as well, isn't it?
That's right. That's who the publishing company was owned by, the Wachowski sisters now, I guess. But they did that, and then they did a Frankenstein story as well too, I think. I think was their other title.
But you should see that statue, Terrence.
Oh, I've never seen it. I've never even heard about it.
You know that guy from Twitter who is buying collections all the time? So he bought it. And that just absolutely like, I don't unfollow, untweet him. He had it. He's a fan of that one as well. So
that's cool.
So Terrence, did you read Yojimbo? Have you, because me and Damon are fans of Yojimbo because of the samurai stuff. Have you read any Yojimbos?
Yeah, no, I haven't, and that's my next thing. Like I was saying, I think when I got the Meta Barons hardcover, I was going there to buy Usagi Yojimbo, the first volume, but then I got distracted by the Meta Barons, and it was only one copy of that hardcover they had, so I grabbed that instead because I didn't want to miss out.
I think that
that's the next one.
That depends how you want it, but that those reprints of the single, like Wanderers Road, what we're reading now with Damon, is really good to get into it. It's just rounded off kind of Yojimbo, what he's really good at, because it reprints whatever he's done earlier. But if you want, just get into that. It's kind of like, because the graphic novels depends which ones you get, and now they're reprinting it in color as well, apparently, but it's softback if you're stupid like I am and like hardcovers only, then you know, it's up to you, your choice. But
I agree. Wanderer's Road is probably a great starting point for Usagi.
Because that's how I just decided to get it. I actually, how I did it, I got those color classics. So they reprint the first 7 issues
Okay.
of something, and they call it reprint Color Classics. And I read that, and that just reaffirmed me. I was like, stupid, why you never read that? You should have read it like Turtles, because it's exactly my wheel, like what I really like reading. It's just the way he tells us that Ronin story of that Yojimbo just going and doing his stuff, but it's just the way he depicts the storyline is I really enjoy it anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'll get there for sure someday. I don't doubt it that I'll be right on board with that.
Yeah, well, I'll be very interested to and listening really carefully to see what you think about it, because curiously, because you've been reading so many samurai stories, now you kind of like, you know what I mean? It's like when you get into that kind of flow, but you can be more judgmental though. You know, like when you get into other people's creation of the same kind of a storyline, you kind of like start to like feel whatever you like it more or not. So, so Mr. Damien, do you have something to share?
These 2 Usagis came out 2 weeks in a row from the new Usagi. I'm not sure why. But it's interesting with Terrence talking about the kind of the lone cowboy kind of thing. Usagi kind of roams Japan all on his lonesome, but it's always about his loyalties and his connections to people.
Yeah.
So like, wrong one. This one wraps up the series, the 3-issue story where he's helping his friend Tengu fight off, who's some kind of like folktale creature. I can't find it. There's Tengu. You know, he's very loyal to his friend Tengu, who has helped him in training in his swordsmanship. So he helps Tengu's clan of whatever they are, magical creatures, fight off this other clan of werewolf-like creatures. And then in the next issue, which is a standalone issue and very good, I recommend it. It's called The Master of Hibashima. This one is, as they often do, comes back to his past when he was loyal to his master, who was defeated and killed in battle. And that's why he is a Ronin and not a regular samurai, because he's masterless. His master was destroyed. But the stories so often come back to that. So we just get another view of the events of that time. So it doesn't feel, to me, it doesn't feel at all like a Western, cowboy kind of comic at all. So it's interesting how maybe you can play that Japanese culture in different ways, because I think it's about something else, about some sense of self, and even when you're cut off, how you're tied to your background. And there was another recent story where he came back to his old village, and people who want revenge against the Lord, who's now the Lord, became the bad guys because they were trying to undo the social order too much. Even though you would think Usagi would be on their side because they were representing the old Lord, getting revenge for the old Lord who is now dead. So I don't know if I can't pin down what Usagi is really about in a way. There's kind of a sadness to him because he wants to be part of things, but he's not. So anyway.
It's interesting the way he picks up the way of life, that Ronin stuff, and he needs a master in order to be the samurai. And then it's just like, do you, like these days you wouldn't say that kind of thing, but in that times Japan, where he's depicting the time and age what it is, they had to. If your lifestyle is to be samurai, you need a master who you defend the house of the blah blah blah. But it's interesting how he's now
Ronin weren't really looked at in like necessarily a high light. You know what I mean? It's like you're masterless. Like
that was a low
you're kind
thing.
of doomed almost to walking the streets and village to village. It was not a good thing for sure.
So Usagi kind of struggles to maintain his honor, even though he's kind of in an honorless position. So in that sense, it's the individual staying true to his code, even though no one else cares, or is true to it. But
doing it himself as opposed to doing it for someone else, right? Like that idea. Yeah.
It also seems to symbolize to me like there's a flip side to too much individualism, where you wish you had a community to be part of, but we've cut our ties to communities too much and we can't go back. and there's this wistful longing for more of a connection and more of a community, which I wonder if that's part of why Usagi speaks to me in some way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, he's just a master, storyteller and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really enjoyed those. I actually currently have been enjoying those Wanderer's Road even more, but these came out 2 weeks in a row for some reason.
Yeah. The thing is,
he's not slowing down in his late 60s.
Yeah,
with telling these stories.
So Usagi's reprints came out in hardback, like the first volume. And I was like, okay, but that's me being like, oh, I can wait, hardcover. It just came out so shortly. And then somebody got a word that it's limited edition. And everybody's picked it out now. And it's crazy. They say sell out so quickly that nobody's like, now people are actually getting angry because the reprint is actually less available than the original ones, because some people are selling the, original sometimes, but because he did something inside that hardcover when we released it, so it becomes a bit more pressurized. I mean, it's just a clever way of publishing something, because you're reproducing something already being reproduced. Suddenly people just got a wisp of it, and now you can't find it anywhere now. If you even look for it, like I was looking before, it was everywhere on the website, like online, blah, blah, blah. Now you can't even have a picture. It's like, there's not even a picture of that. Like, is there, it used to be a reprint? Are you sure? So very clever marketing solutions. But yeah, I always think I never want to be kind of pushed straight away to buy when something gets released. This pisses me off. I want a choice, I wanted to decide to buy it. And I will buy it. I don't want to just consume all the time, like right away, because you just released it. That's the whole point of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I will talk, and then that's my turn. Anyway, I'm getting
that was an announcement.
Yeah, me talking now. Concentrate, people. Wake up. Anyway, that's me should be waking up anyway. But I have this, not complete volume, of course, but that's me and my lack of collecting in singles. But Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips.
Nice, yeah.
So
it's a good series, man.
I was liking that a lot in interview.
So I've not. Criminal is everywhere when they talk about that's the kind of the depiction of them being famous. But I've not heard many things about Incognito. Like maybe recently, maybe just because it's all about the reprints and everybody's just giving that storyline. But I read this first issue and I was like, interesting. So it starts with this superhero guy who looks like Green Lantern, to be honest, with Ghost Rider's jacket on and being a badass. But his powers is weird, like because he's extra strong so far, what I have understood from this first issue. And then we see, and then the way the clever story starts, this is the scene, which is supposed to be at the back of the book, but no, this is the story. Let me tell you the story, what it was from the beginning. And you see this guy in office doing the regular office job, and you're like, what's going on here? Then he's cleverly, horribly disguises and have sex with a female co-worker who she doesn't have a clue who he is, because he took away clothes from the person. He basically got a great idea, found a guy who wants to go pick up more drinks, but he passes out. He dresses like him and like a creep goes into the same room and have sex with a female who doesn't have a clue. So that's like, that's a little bit crazy. Anyway, and then you see him like really happy about having the sexual intercourse and just like reliving his life. And I was like, what the hell were you, Ed Brubaker? What are you talking about? You're like, I don't understand this couple of pages. It makes me interested. And then suddenly he's talking to these people. He's he's protective custody. And then we find out why he's in protective custody. And then he's like, he's apparently criminal with his twin brother who they have powers. And then something happened to his brother. He's dead. And now, in order to subdue him to what he was doing in his life, they say to him, you take a pill and lose your powers and live your life as a normal human being, or else, kind of thing. So, and then you slightly, just little by little, you discover a little bit more. And then the guy is like, I don't want to be a normal human. I know what I used to be. I don't want to be this whimsical, like having life like pure simple life like you usually do, go to work 9 to 5 and something like that. And then he takes drugs, and those drugs basically get rid of that pills effect, and he gets his powers back. And then you see this creepy ass this scientist who's like, that old age creepiness is just because of that. Like, this is a pure example. I know Gore Vidal was saying you all look like Sean Connery, but please, look at this. Look at his face. That's not pure Sean Connery face at all. But anyway, this is just me saying shitty stuff. But anyway, loved it so far. I don't have the whole. I don't even know how many issues they came out
with.
Two
miniseries. I think the second miniseries was Bad Influence, is what it was called. And I think for Incognito, I don't know if they did it just for the first issue. I think they also did a magazine-sized one too but I don't remember if it was its own thing or if it was just a different version of one of the issues. I don't quite remember, because I bought that when I discovered Criminal and those hardcovers. I bought these single issues of Criminal and bought Incognito as well, because they were in the bins. I remember really enjoying both of those miniseries. I like
the way he started. Like at the beginning, I was like thinking, surely I'm not going to be interested in. Like, it doesn't look like I'm interested in it, because it's just too basic of a story at the beginning. Okay, you see him doing some really good things, but then you have him just telling you, "Oh, let me tell you the story," and the story starts like plain, really office cubicles and all that stuff. Like, huh? And then you like slowly reveals the story behind whatever behind starts, and then they show you again the same pages how he looked to that female. Like, it's like a douchebag. He's like, "Oh, why are you in that alley? You know if something's gonna bad happen, and what you expect people gonna save you?" And he goes and saves her. So he's kind of like, like the criminal mind of him. Like it's like I don't want to be a good guy. I guess he doesn't want to be a good guy.
No, he enjoys being a bad guy, from what I remember.
Yeah, as far as because he says in here, I don't
pride in it.
Yeah, it's like I really like we weren't like really good individuals, like criminals. We know exactly what we wanted. We were doing what we wanted to do, but now you like blame people who are doing 9 to 5. It's like boring. It's really boring, and I don't want to do it. But then there's something they have that he committed to them, saying like, okay, you can make me like human again without powers, but then but what did they have like for him, like that he's afraid to be? I mean, I know he got captured, but still, like when you have that much power, surely there's something they have behind, like that he has to commit to it, and like he doesn't have a choice. So I wonder if he's gonna sell that in the story, because like every single superhero with beautiful like strong powers, it's not easy to capture them in placing them in one like box. You know what I mean? You have to be something like you have Batman's with Arkham Asylum. Like you have those special places for that kind of people. So no, we look like Sean Connery. I don't like
lighting.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
Well, Rasa looks a little less like Sean Connery than.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't want to be looking like Sean Connery.
More like Emma Peel in the Avengers, I think.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks. Anyway, so I wanted to mention this Val Staples colorist. She's great in this series as well. So she originally colored in The Criminals, and apparently she's doing that. But I have not heard her name before. Like, I don't know if she's finished her job doing whatever she's doing, but really good color.
I used to see her around, but I haven't heard her name in a long time.
Yeah.
I wonder if his son will. I mean, he's definitely getting that good levels of colors. But when you have your daddy working with Breitweiser and your son trying his best, almost similarly art style like your dad, to get to that level, it doesn't look like it. I mean, he's probably gonna get his own take on the color as well, because he's been doing his dad's work after, isn't it? Now recent jobs, but he doesn't have the same color.
See,
it just doesn't complement.
The question I don't know is, did they get rid of Breitweiser so that his son could do the coloring, or did Breitweiser leave and then they had to get someone in? That's
Breitweiser left because of comic link thingy.
The comic.
I thought that
she and her husband started their own publishing company.
Yeah.
She chose her scumbag husband over art.
There was something like that, wasn't it? Yeah.
The friends of Van Sciver, the bad guy.
Yeah.
Van Sciver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bad one, yeah.
So that makes me so sad. Like, will we ever see her coloring again?
Because
I'm
she's
hoping she'll
amazing.
divorce that guy.
No, honestly, the woman has really good sense of, because her colors doesn't overpower the artwork. She complements it, and that's really a special talent
Right.
to have for the colorist. Because many artists are like crazy, because like you do the art and you go in your colored art, it's like, what is this? Is it made you drew it? Because it doesn't look like it. Sometimes you feel.
Well, honestly, the other thing that stands out from you showing this early criminal and this kind of stuff, that it also highlights to me that how kind of, I don't know, this is my own opinion, how kind of far Sean Phillips' art has fallen since those days. And maybe it was a combination of him with the colors and things. Like, I don't dislike his art by any stretch. There's still some stuff that I really do enjoy. But seeing those pages, I really enjoyed it more, which is so strange to say, because when I first got into it, it didn't appeal to me at all. But now looking back, it's like, man, there was something, because even in one of the criminal stuff that you showed there in one of the magazines, there were some pages you showed with just the lighting even, and the coloring for the lighting. It just seemed to be a bit higher quality than what it is now. Still enjoyable art. I don't know if that's part of me, my perspective on it, or if it's just a fact of he's just now stretched out pretty thin. And we've talked about it before, but it's really in your face looking at this stuff you've been showing today.
No, but the thing is, it's. I'm not trying to say that his art is bad, but I'm just saying it's noticeable. It's noticeable to the point how you release your stuff and how you wanted to do quicker work. Even though you do digitally, you still lose that attention to detail. Like we were looking at Frank, the cat. Yeah, that's like immense work rate. I mean, you have to that perfect lines and depiction of everything. But when you explore more of the person's art, like this is the volume 2, I guess. I have only a couple of issues. This is my next one reading this, but I don't have really little. So cover. And you can see the art in here. It's still the same colorist. What I'm doing? Oh yeah. It's still the same kind of feel, but the different timeline, because it's in the past kind of thing in showing here. But still, it's really good quality, the face and stuff like that. But I don't have that on me now. That new books we were buying from them, so it just feels like he's not doing that much time. It doesn't have that much time to do it, even though if his son is still coloring. So I don't know. It's just noticeable. I just wanted to tell that I noticed it. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Part of me wants to say it's because he's doing everything digitally, but he maybe have been doing that for a long time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, this is the famous cover for the deluxe edition.
Oh, love that.
1.
Yeah.
So
it's
I have
such
that.
a good cover, man.
Yeah, but it's this like cover deluxe edition is pricey. Really pricey. I remember I went to this shop in London. I found and then they had this, I think, deluxe edition right in the top, and it's almost on the pedestal. It's like, how much is it? I'm not selling it. It's like, why are you showing it?
Yeah. Show you what I have that you don't.
It's like, because you're like, how much is it? You're like, the first thing you do in the comic book shop. It's like, I'm not selling that. I was like, oh, okay.
It's like my videos, Rasa. I'm just showing you stuff. This is mine. You can't have it.
Because there's, you would think any comic book shop you go in, everything is for sale. It seems to be whatever's on display, especially. But that was just I got a little bit shocked, but not shocked in a way. But I was just surprised. It's a shop you're selling books, but that one was. And I remember, because they in that time was looking for the Darwin Cook's slipcase you have for that story with the and they had that. And they were asking that time £125. But what they do is they were, but you can sell your books, but then it takes a very long time, because it's London. I wasn't living in London, but that's why I remember that book as well, because of this cover, and also because the guy was next to. It was next, basically what it was. It was next to that Darwin Cook's book. And that one, it was plastered with a big money sign, 150.
Yeah.
I was wondering, maybe the sign was dropping on this one. How much is it? Not for sale.
Yeah.
Okay, no, right. Sorry.
Hilarious.
Yeah. Anyway, you have something else to share, Terrence?
I sure do.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead,
never
Jamie.
mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
No,
No, I
David,
just thought that Gore made an interesting comment that the characters in Brubaker's work are like the opposite of the characters in Usagi.
Oh,
That they
uh-huh.
have no honor and do not crave connection in a
Mhm.
sense. They're
Yeah.
literally they're individualists in a very negative sense.
Well, the way
Sure,
the
yeah,
life
but I
went.
mean, they also do have their own moral code, you know what I mean? Which is
Yeah.
what appeals to me about some of those stories. Like it's this perspective, you know. Definitely, they're not doing good things. There's no doubt about it. Like they're you know they're
Uh-huh.
engaging in criminal behavior. But I like that idea of like they still have their own moral code and they live in this world where you know they're making good choices considering what their surroundings are. You know what I mean? Whether that's having kind of honor with one particular person in one particular job or whatever. That's part of that. That's part of that. That's appealing. But yeah, for sure, they live in opposite ends of the spectrum to some degree, for sure.
Yeah. Interesting.
Sorry, Terrence. I have Carmen sitting around here too.
You do? Cool.
Yeah.
No,
But
don't
you
be
go ahead
sorry.
and talk about it.
That's good to talk about, but we'll talk about it together because this. I was considering maybe talking about this, but then I'm like, forget it. Let's talk about one that that everything seemed to work. And I mean, again, like this second issue, it's not going to be anything groundbreaking that I have to say about it, considering what other people have said. But the joy of comics is completely on full display for me here. Like there's not another
totally
art
agree.
form where you can show a page and you can have a creature literally or an individual or an animal or a person or whatever it happens to be, in this case a human being, moving through that space, and you can see their movement in this kind of way, these snapshots. It's just phenomenal, the use of the page and how I'm blanking on her name, how she moves through this physical space, even so much as kind of, you know, turning upside down and making things topsy-turvy. Having that moment where she thinks that she's being seen and just having those extra little lines on the leg there, phenomenal. Like this kind of burst of oh shit, you know, like showing that kind of action with the exclamation point, that kind of reaction. It's just so beautiful to look through.
Yeah.
And one of the things I ended up doing before we got to kind of like the second half where there was a story, I flipped back and forth multiple times to the beginning of the book, you know, almost doing like a rewind.
It's just a
good
joy.
dance
You
track.
keep looking at the pages, right? This is the kind of artist that makes the other artists who are just doing their job look really bad.
100%. And it's everybody working in unison. Well, I mean, this is not everybody because it's one person in this case, but I mean, it's everything kind of working together, the coloring working really well, the layouts working really well, the character design, even the city design, you know, the actual design of the city itself. It's just so beautiful.
Right.
And part of me was kind of, you know, wishing that the whole issue would be her kind of exploring and floating through. I mean, I liked I hear the critiques on the second half. I enjoyed it. Did it blow me away? No, it didn't blow me away the story wise. It's nice to get a couple of pieces, and it feels like, I don't know if it was me that missed the mark from the first one, but it feels to me like Chaos and Comics was saying in his video that her roommate is going to profess his love for her, is what it read to me, where it was like, oh, maybe I missed that at the beginning, and that they necessarily weren't a couple, because I kind of got the impression from the first one that they were a couple and he had cheated on her with the roommate.
I thought they weren't.
That might have been my reading.
I thought they weren't a couple.
Yeah.
But then I kept doubting myself. Are they a couple? Aren't they a couple?
Which I think is also something clever. Like I'm curious to read the next issue just to get a little more of a chunk, because I'm starting to think that maybe that was the point. You're supposed to be left in this ambiguous kind of space where you don't really know. You think you know, and we've had the action of her committing suicide, and I love that picture as well too. Just the gravity on the human body, like she's falling through space. There's no doubt about it in my mind. Like she is falling, and it's every single part of her is showing that, right? And
It
then
looks
the
like
final
her
kind of
boob gonna smack her in the face.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So just gorgeous. And again, like this is the page that I found myself coming back to a number of times. I
Mhm.
love her moving through the space on that page. Like that's comics at kind of the highest level to me. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
this is what you can do with it. Show me something that you can only do in comics, and this is exactly it. You know?
Yeah. I would call it the joy of comics if it weren't called Carmen. I mean, even when the story's sad, it's joyful because it's just doing such great stuff with the medium. And sorry?
The art, sorry, I just wanted to say the art looks is not for comic, it needs to be bigger, like a magazine size.
Well, and it may have originally been published at a bigger size. I don't know when it was
Yeah.
published in Spain and France. I really hope they do I will double dip on a large size hardback for sure. It better have good binding though, because otherwise these double spreads will look awful. You don't want all that lost. You made a great point about the city. You don't get that in comics so often, where this feels like a very specific city that you could visit and love to be a tourist there. You know, it just feels totally like it has its own character. I wonder if this is a love letter to the city where he lives or something, or if he just kind of made it up from an amalgam of various European cities. But it just feels so real and but joyful to explore.
It's just so good. Like it's just really, it's so good. Even though we are dealing with a bit of a darker story, because of this kind of fantastical element, I personally feel a little detached. I know, you know, like, and that there's a whole bunch of conversation in there, which isn't necessarily to maybe go through, but the idea that I feel like I feel separated from it, you know, where yes, it's a heavy story, but the way he's approaching it takes some of that weight off of it, because there's this kind of magical element to everything. And her, you know, again, with her floating through space, it's very dreamlike, you know, where I start to wonder, like, well, maybe the first issue, maybe that didn't really happen, you know, like, I don't know, but that's also what I'm enjoying. I don't really know what's coming next. And that's not always something that happens, you know. You can sort of get an idea, even though there may be twists and turns, you can get a general sense in a story where I feel like I don't really know what's going to come next, you know, and that's exciting for me.
Well, when Gore originally, you know, made the connection to Little Nemo and Slumberland, it really connected for me a lot more what this comic is up to. It's not just about its plot. If you just retold to somebody what's happening, it wouldn't have any of the impact that this has, because it's about the exploration of the imagination and the joy of that kind of storytelling.
Yeah, for sure.
Mine, the comics was saying that it was published in graphic novel format in September in Portugal. So
he says it came out with a newspaper. Does he mean it was like the size of a newspaper? Or like inside a newspaper? I'm not sure what he means by that. But anyway, yeah, it's it does fit the comic. You know, sometimes when you get a European album, there's huge gaps on the sides.
Which is
it does fit here, so that makes me wonder what it looked like in its original form.
Yeah.
So this is republishing,
I guess.
Yes. The other thing to note is this is 30 pages of art without any ads for $3.99, and then at the back you get a few sketch pages, and it has kind of end papers that recapitulate an image from the first issue.
Yeah.
So it's just a wonderful package. I mean, everything about it. This is what comics should be.
Yes.
And you'll make money because it makes someone like me want to buy it twice. You know, it's not like you're losing money by putting out a good product like this.
Or like
or 3 times.
Because I have two pull lists now, and I forgot that I had it on a pull list and blah blah blah. So I bought it twice. But
at least it's the comic this good that you got bought twice.
That, you know, no ad, like that's full story. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's gorgeous. And even the color on the front cover, like just the
Mhm.
colors and everything, it's really, really exceptional. It's a
Yeah,
really
even in the
strong
colors,
book.
it has its own voice, right? There's no other comic that has that combination of colors.
And
Yep.
also the female physique is not skinny, depicted in a skinny way, which is
Right.
fantastic. She has
Yeah.
curves. She has those wrinkles which you need to have at the end of the day to, yeah.
Yeah,
anyway.
she's still a woman in her 20s, but she's a real
Yeah.
woman, and you know,
Yeah.
there's beauty in her normal humanness, not her exaggerated fantasy
Right.
humanness.
And that's what they Mind comics publishers in Portugal often partner with newspapers so they can take advantage of this distribution in newsstands.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that's the way we can sell. You buy this newspaper, I guess you get cheaper price for the graphic novel.
Imagine in the United States buying a newspaper and getting all these nudes in it.
Yeah.
That's a very different cultural thing.
I don't think you
This,
would do. Yeah.
This panel
see?
right there,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it because that's a real woman. You know what I mean? Like that's a legit.
Yeah.
There's, you know, yeah. There's meat on those bones.
Yeah.
She's eaten a sandwich and kept it down as well. You know.
She probably had a couple of pints after that as well.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's different. It's nice to see that kind of thing. The art is especially depicted really nicely. As I say, the story when I was reading the first one, the suicidal part was just too much for me. It's just like I have to just, you know, sometimes you just don't want to eat because of the beautiful art and so believably looking at. So yeah, I just didn't want it that time.
No, for
Do
sure.
I have anything else?
What did you have, Damien? Did you have anything else besides, you know,
Oh yeah,
we
Sure.
sort of left on
Sure.
that one together there?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I kind of
I
left
missed-
in there. But if you have something, Rasa, go ahead.
No. You go. It's the right order. Let's don't do us. It's like OCD almost. So make sure everybody has the same
Misplaced
time.
something here.
Yeah.
I love that. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to be talking about The Goon, but there's a specific issue of The Goon that I thought was in this stack, and I can't find it at the moment. Oh, here it is. Okay, so you guys may remember I sort of fell in love with the most recent issue of The Goon,
Yeah.
and I kind of falsely concluded from it that I can just read random Goon issues and have a great time.
Mhm.
Not that I am not having a great time, but by the time I got to 30 and 31 of this Dark Horse run,
Mhm.
it became clear that all of this was part of a long-term story and history about the Goon, and so
Mhm.
I kind of enjoyed looking at it and seeing the
Mhm.
fights and some of the funny dialogue, but I just didn't get any of the emotional resonance for it. So I may have to give in and just buy those omnibuses and read everything. I liked the fantasy I had of, that I was finding a comic that would be great as just random individual issues. But then I also had issue 40 from the Dark Horse run. And this, I mean, it may connect up to other stuff, but it made a really fun one and done issue. And it was almost like reading Mad Magazine and Cracked and Crazy and cartoons. And it starts with this, is it Charlie Daniels, or maybe it's a cousin of Scott Connors singing a song about how America used to be. Not the America my dad was nostalgic for, though. And then this kind of jokey prohibition story, where there's prohibition. I don't know the name of the town, if there is a name of the town in the Goons village, but so some crotchety old ladies decide to start prohibition in the town, and drinking leads to screwing. And so I'm going to read something out loud. It's kind of offensive, I suppose. I don't know what them old ladies had against sexy times, dangling your noodle, dipping your pickle, taking the skin boat to Tuna Town, and so on and so forth. But they sure were again it. And I just like that it had kind of this, sort of, I don't know how to describe it, kind of antisocial sense of humor, you might say. So it's a tale of the Goon having to fix up his car so it goes really, or his truck so it goes really fast, so he can deliver booze. And then he gets into in chapter 2 a fight with some other moonshine runners, and I guess it's all like Charlie Daniels' "The Devil Goes Down to Georgia" or whatever that song was, in a sense. And so they're having a fight with this family who's also illegal alcohol runners, and the devil shows up. Didst thou not expect that I, the fallen one, would be summoned forth when thou dost dance the forbidden Charleston, the most erotic of dances? Oh, I should have read earlier. They were dancing the Charleston, which women are not allowed to dance. So again, it's going to be kind of in bad taste here. After many skirmishes, the war between the Goons gang and the Boyle family came to a head in a violent Charleston contest between Papa Grits and Frankie. Yes, the Charleston, a dance so sexually charged that at the time it was illegal to perform in front of women. And it shows this two same old ladies. One of them's grabbing the other's breast and the other saying, "Oh, my labia." It's just so tacky and silly that I found it extra funny.
Yeah.
So, but the devil tells them they have to have a devil's drag race. And let's see, in the middle of the drag race, where did it go? This ape drinks their hooch and gets turned into this wacky racer. I could swear I had a sticker of this guy when I was a kid.
That's amazing.
And I just love that picture.
Oh, man.
That's great.
Ed Big Daddy
So
Rock.
I just love the feeling that this goon could go anywhere and just go crazy. So yeah, that was pretty much all it. And then they get rid of prohibition after apparently just 5 days of prohibition. So that whole story was about the 5 days of prohibition that they had in town. But it was just a whole lot of fun, just wacky, kind of in bad taste, in your face sense of humor that I really got a kick out of.
You see,
I don't know if I can share it with my wife or not. Definitely not my daughter.
Maybe not yet. Wait
Not
until
yet.
like three more years, and I think she'll be already.
Well, even
ready.
if she be okay with that sense of humor in a few years, she might not want it coming out of her dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look at tuna.
Scott Connor said, "Same boat time, same tuna channel."
Yeah. It's good. I mean, I think it depicts him, Eric Powell, quite well. I think the way he's the character, the way you see his pictures sometimes when he's with his wife and stuff on Instagram. I think it's just the character he is, and that's the goon is not like representative of him, but it's just the way he's representing his own personality. Looks like very forward thinking and not afraid to speak his mind, kind of person, which is great.
Right.
I mean, for this kind of like a job, you have to have that wit about you, just to stand out and everything. And I think Goon really helped him out of that. I think as an artist in generally, it's just he's famous for that. So and all those lines and stuff. So
Yeah. Have you read a lot of The Goon?
myself, I have read maybe first like 10 issues or 15 issues, and I don't know why I stopped. I just like I have this. I mean, these things like now I'm probably gonna. The more you're going to talk about the Goon, the more I will be probably inclined to do so, because I do have all those collected editions. And but like when you have something, it's in there, and you have it, you're like, I'll come back to it. Now I'm interested in this. Oh, I come back to it. I'm interested in this. So
that's kind of the problem with collected editions. Once you have it, you say, "Oh, I can read it anytime," and you just kind of set it aside.
And you never go to it, do it. And that's
part of why I liked my idea of just getting it and go to the store, and I just flip through, and every issue that was less than $3, I bought it. Yeah. And I left behind the higher, more expensive ones and figured I'd find them somewhere else. I'm not even sure why the store marked some Goons, between $3 and $8. Why they weren't all one price. But anyway.
Yeah.
Just to touch back on what you were saying just a minute ago, I was watching Gore Vidal had sent us a link to the year anniversary of a channel whose name I always forget. And it was Howard Chaykin and another guy from Marvel, the editor of Marvel or whatever, right? Like
Which
they were,
has-
and
no.
Chaykin was talking about that kind of idea of the Marvel guy was talking about how sometimes he has to help writers with they're getting this kind of feedback from social media and they want to change their story and trying to, which of course Chaykin was like, that's bullshit. That's the total wrong way to do it. You have a story, you tell your story. That's your story. You know what I mean? Like where, for this goon, you were just kind of mentioning that idea of he's going to tell a story. There might be things that are maybe, looked at as maybe not in the most favorable light, but he's telling his story and he's still having that opportunity to tell it. And it was it was a really interesting conversation. If you haven't seen it, it's a really good, I think it was an hour plus. I watched most of it. I think I'm missing watching the last 15 minutes, but some really good discussion, especially having someone like Chaykin and then someone from full on in Marvel. They all seem like they're longtime friends. So there was a lot of very candid conversations going on, which I found really interesting.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I've seen too many times or listened to too many podcasts where Howard Chaykin just kind of says all the same things, but it sounds like this was maybe a different interview. It
seemed to be a little different because of the influence of everybody else. It wasn't just the Howard Chaykin hour. Everybody had a chance to speak, so it was sort of moderated that way a little more.
Right. And the other people weren't just podcast interviewers, but had their own experience to draw on.
Correct. And legitimate, real experience of working in comics. And, it was a great listen.
Cool.
Oh, interesting.
I'll have to look for that.
So probably one of my, but this is going to be my last thing mentioning. So another thing what Damien has decided to send as this Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. And then, funny enough, there's a lot of things talking about now Shaolin, what, Shang-Chi movie?
A movie coming out,
and then 9 whatever rings of whatever
10
truth.
rings or
10
rings, 9 rings, I don't know.
I'm not familiar with Shang-Chi at all in the comic books. I mean, when there's a rumor of him, his first appearance comes into a movie, the price is just like whoosh, shots up. And I remember clearly looking for that book in the Comic Mart. Actually, me and Dr. Monkeybot, we were discussing it if it's worth to buy it, and we was like, nah, £20. Now the same probably copy is like £250 just because the movies come here. It's just the way the things come out. So, but I never went into because of like there's a certain priorities you have in collecting, blah blah blah. I never went to getting that one, so I'm not familiar with that. But is this the same Shang-Chi we're talking about in Marvel? Because Stan Lee's, is this still the same guy?
So he had a color comic book, and then they also sometimes stuck him in this black and white comic. But they also they created eventually all kinds of different kung fu characters to put in that black and white comic. Yeah. So that's just issue 2. I think he's in there, right? Is there 2 stories about him or
just? I think it's one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because this one has. Oh wait, no, 2. I haven't read the second because I didn't notice because there was. I didn't like. I was just curious to read the first one story because I was. I'm a fan of the content. What I'm trying to say is because I am knowing his lifestyle. I'm not saying he's a very good actor, and actually the character in those the 70s, he's been there everywhere. To be honest, so I'm very familiar with his character and the actor, especially. Okay, the recent famous thing is the Kill Bill from Tarantino's work.
Right.
So I was like, oh, there's information about him, but knowing his life and what's happened is actually goes in here a little bit about his story. How even like I was always wondering, I don't know why, maybe you guys have it or not, but I was like, he always had the same haircut. So now in this magazine, if it's true, because it's his dad. He was that kind of like, wanted to kind of like daddy's issues kind of thing. So daddy had the same haircut. He had the same haircut kind of thing.
That's funny.
Yeah, because actually it's just one information you read kind of thing. Anyway, so I read the first story of the Shang-Chi thingy. And this is really good. The art is, okay, let me work my work.
Is that the one drawn by Alan Weiss?
Yes, Alan Lee Weiss and Al Mingler as in inks. And Steve Englehart in the creative. Really beautiful panels. Everything is fantastic,
Yeah,
to be
really nice.
honest. I absolutely loved it. So the story is very, very simple. The guy, apparently Shang-Chi is also have daddy issues because daddy is not very good. He's
Daddy
supposed
is
to,
the super villain.
yeah, daddy is a very bad guy. And then he's creating his, I guess him as a, you're supposed to be using him as a muscle, isn't it? That's what they were depicting in here. And
Dad wanted him to be his assassin, and he
yes,
decided not to, and then
yeah,
that created
and
problems.
yes, and then he left to go into what, America?
Eventually,
look
he
for-
joined some British Secret Service. I don't know if
Oh.
he has at that point in the story, though.
But what it's the story is like he gets in a, basically there's this gang of, I guess, working for daddy, because daddy's been capturing these people who has like elements of martial arts in them. So and then they attacked Shang-Chi in order, because like to give him back to his dad. I guess that's what we try to do. But of course,
Right.
he's way too powerful, and he's beating the hell out of them. We go into his dojos and all that stuff, and then he's like, they can't deal with them, basically. And you have this group of characters, and this guy with just robe and skimpy underwear. That was like, I couldn't stop laughing. It's like, what are you wearing, dude? Are you like, is this how you depict yourself in this martial arts house? Apparently they're hiding there, and then this is the way where they were trying to, like, because they are different. Okay, they all like misfits kind of thing, because what they did to his dad was doing to them. Anyway, so there's great fight scenes. The story is like, like I don't know why. like you discover things like, you like the stuff, why you don't have more of it, because this is exactly, especially with this, the quality of art you get all the time is fantastic, and I really enjoyed it. A simple storyline, they attack, he's fights back, and of course is the winner, and he really trash this dude badly with that skimpy underwear he's wearing. And then he's like, okay, we sorry, I apologize, you're the winner, blah blah blah, and he's like here to help them, and there is this, and then the bad things, what happens to them at the end. This is spoiler alert. Dad, who still had the last word. So when he leaves that dojo with everybody's good, everybody's happy, he explodes it. So daddy's like, I will get you back, my sunny boy. So it's like, wow, daddy's very cruel. No wonder he's escaped him, because it's like, and then have you watched the trailer? I've watched the trailer. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think
love
I
the
had not
trailer.
seen the trailer.
and of course my favorite person is the chick in the bus.
Yeah.
I like her as an actress.
We make a good team.
Yeah, she's like, I'm gonna make a good team. Like the bus is all completely. Yeah, have a look if you want. I mean, I don't usually tend to watch the trailers. I tend not to, but I was curious because they've made this big deal of Marvel is doing all Asian movie, no white people in there, because they're trying to appeal to the markets, blah blah blah. I mean, it's appealing to me anyway. I'm that market, the white person kind of thing, but it definitely appeals to me. Hopefully it will be as entertaining and maybe a bit more in-depth story in that movie. Hopefully not just your basic samurai, like not samurai, but the guy who knows his martial arts, does whatever he does, he's the winner with those rings and mystic parts. Maybe that will be very interesting and curious.
I think it's going to be stellar. We watched that trailer a couple of times. I put it on the TV so we could watch it on the big screen as well. It looks really great. I'm also jonesing some Marvel movies. That's the other side of it too. It's been so long.
Yeah.
I suspect it won't have much to do with those old comics, just because his father was a licensed character named Fu Manchu.
Oh yeah,
who
Right.
was also now considered kind of a racist depiction.
Yeah.
I see.
So I'm assuming they're going to do something else with him, but I haven't seen the trailer. And they do have current Shang-Chi comics, which I think have little to do with those old comics.
Yeah.
So in the old comics, he eventually joins a British Secret Service that is dedicated to bringing down Fu Manchu, who has an kind of invisible empire around the Earth. and he's kind of like the yellow menace that
wow,
that the white folk used to fear back in 1900 or something. When the original novels were written.
Yeah, there is a lots of there's a Jim Starlin in which I haven't read, which is
the Jim Starlin, I think, is a reprint from one of the early color comics.
I'm not to show you. It's mentioned that Fu Manchu you were talking about in this one. As well. So Jim which I'm going to read, but there's like one of the famous, of course, the Bruce Lee's movie, of course. It's a bit of there. No, I like Bruce Lee a lot.
Cool.
I'm a fan, of course. So I kind of wanted to read, but it's like, no, it's too much text. It's typical, right? Like reader of comic books. Oh, it's too much text. I wouldn't be bothered. But I just like to look at the beautiful body of Bruce Lee and his like life and whatever he had. So I wanted to say something, and I wanted to, before you if you still want to, I don't know how long can I hold off. Anyway, we've been chatting quite a bit now, hours wise, but I finished watching the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the TV show, and I actually enjoyed it. I like the story. I like the way they finished it. I'm not sure about the costume, if you know where I'm drifting towards, but because what the Falcon becomes. You've seen it in the comic book, so that's not a spoiler alert, by the way. But if you're a comic book reader, so but I actually really liked it. I like that if he will take the Captain America mantle, I want that kind of thing. I don't know if it's going to continue. You know, like they always like, oh look, we're going to change, we're going to do this. You know, like we're going to represent more like African Americans in the stuff or Asians and stuff. How long will they do that? Because the blue eyes and the blonde hair, it's really appealing to everybody, it seems to be, you know, like Captain America wise. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is I liked it a lot, to be honest. I'm surprised how much. At first, it didn't drag me into it. I felt like, you know, that I was talking to you about Winter Soldier and Falcon hadn't had chemistry, because they felt really kind of awkward all the time. But right at the end, I think it seems to be they did. It's like even the actors, it seems to be okay. We know exactly how you are. It's like you know that they have a laugh, but not awkward laugh, like not forced laugh, like like laugh now, like for the actors, like you have to laugh and you have to be like realistic kind of thing. It didn't feel that way. So I probably, you know, like it really felt like Captain America movie, but split in so many parts. Because every single episode is like 15 minutes, which is quite a long time, to be honest, to watch. But it's so involved. And I'm not sure about the bad guy but who is the real bad guy is revealed in here. And there's a name which they're spoiling, and there's a female involved in there. And I'm getting cross again. Because I really enjoyed basically Kat's name is being spoiled. Hawaii is spoiled. I'm not going to say anymore. You haven't both watched it, yeah? The TV show.
I haven't made it past the first 2 episodes. I watched those first 2 and it just fell flat. That said, though, I've heard that it does get much better. So I do want to give it a chance. We just haven't yet, but I will finish it.
Yeah. The Seinfeld actress gets involved in there.
Dreyfus?
Yes.
Oh, really? Hey, yeah, nice.
So she's there.
I plan to watch it, but I have to watch it after everyone goes to bed because they're not interested in it.
Yeah. She's in there, but it's not that much of the role. I mean, she's there to, I don't know what to do. I mean, there's specific moments and lines she is going for introducing another character, let's say, from the Marvel Universe, or making one character to another character. But I hope she's going to be there, because she's really, I mean, she's actress. I mean, she's really, really good actress. She knows what she's doing, so. Yeah, it's. I mean, as I say, it's quite an investment in time, but honestly, the story gets involved to the better line. I mean, the first 2 episodes wasn't great at all, but that's how it seems to be. All the Disney TV show goes like that way. They really depicts the story. I mean, it's not bad overall as a product. I think is great, to be honest, for having those 2 characters just to be having their own light. But what kind of story they wanted to tell, they had to. It had the same feel of it. As I say, really, Captain America. It's basically having Captain America movie, but in, as I say, slotted in the 6 series and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I think, part of it also for me is Captain America has never really been a character I was much interested in. Anybody who's draping themselves a flag of a country is just something that is not going to appeal to me to begin with. But I mean, the thing is, like, I didn't have much interest in WandaVision, and right out of the gate, those first 2 episodes had me captured. You know what I mean? Like, just there was something to it. Whereas this one, it just was kind of like, it just didn't feel like there was anything there to kind of grab me. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that said, though, I love what they're doing with the TV shows. I think it's such a good move. It's such an interesting idea to give a little bit of, like, a friend of mine was talking about it.
Yeah.
These big events, and then here's the in-between stuff. We'll do it as a TV show.
Yeah.
There's hints that maybe this was the end of season 1, that there might be another season. This idea of taking those in-between moments between the movies and kind of exploring a little more is a pretty good idea.
But it's like a perfect what the genre we were going for is what what you describe it of a genre. I think it depicts exactly what they wanted to, kind of, in the way. It's like, okay, they 2 of them. There's a lot of people talking about those, 2 characters, like stories, like, like whatever those TV shows or movies came out with 2 guys who's, doing their own things and trying to work together, blah, 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 to deal with the bad guys, the good guys, blah. But I think what they tried the most to do is how you introduce an African American to being Captain America, and that stigma towards having a black person representing the flag and all of that stuff, what they're supposed to represent because of the time and era they were coming from. At the end of the day, there's history behind it. There's nobody, that kind of thing is still there. And I think that's what they try the whole way to show it, with help of Winter Soldier, like, because he's a friend of Captain America. He's there, like, kind of thing. We were buddies, and now he's struggling because there's Captain America, who they first the another soldier they introduced, who's like really depicted as a bad guy, proper, like you hate him. That Captain America is like, and this guy, the actor who was doing this TV show, he was the one who's trying to get into Captain America's role, which is kind of funny. And he didn't get it because of Chris Evans got the role. So that kind of thing.
But I mean, the thing, just to Jared's comment, the thing with that is, like, that's focusing on Canadian talent. That's not necessarily focusing on characters who drape themselves in a flag and that kind of storytelling. That's more like
nationalism.
Canadian talent doesn't get enough focus, I feel, because we're often overshadowed by the States, unfortunately, where the United States gets a lot of kind of attention, especially here in Canada. We hear so much about American politics and news. Not really purely a bad thing. It's good to be informed, but that kind of character and that kind of motivation and that kind of propaganda that can come along with that kind of a character has just always been something that hasn't really sat well with me. Again, there's probably fantastic Captain America stories. It's just not something that I'm drawn to generally. So yeah.
There's another thing that they try to introduce is that African American. So when Captain America went into that Antarctica and got frozen completely, and was frozen in time for so many years, they have used a serum to make somebody, or were playing around with the serums, of course. And they, as a lab rats, were using the people like of minority. Do you know what I mean? So we were using them to make one, and they made one who just one out of like a bunch of them, who made one and he was the guy soldier again, but he was African American. But in that time and there after Captain America, when he disappeared, basically, he had to take over kind of in a way, or tries to help him. And in that TV show, they're showing that guy, introducing him. And he's still alive and living, but the way they were treating him because of his color and his minorities, and I think that's what they try to do with this TV show. They try to underline more of the storyline, of the behind the back, like, is it what we represent as that hero, how you represent him and how you introduce him to being in different light to appeal to everybody else in demographics, you know what I mean? So
I like all those comments there. Canadian superheroes make no sense because no supervillain wants to conquer Canada. It's a good one.
And
I have to say, I'm so sick of Canada jokes, particularly when Apollo's not American. When they come from Americans, it's like, we're so effed up and we think it's so funny to make jokes about Canada. Like, based on what?
Yeah.
They're too friendly. Oh, what a horrible thing.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
make
right.
sure.
Yeah.
Should be
We have
ashamed of
free
that
will.
friendliness.
Exactly. So anyway, so that TV show I think is still worth your time and the effort. And I think the Mackie guy, I forgot his name, the main guy, the Falcon guy, he's really good at. I think is getting there. I think he's getting the light of, of the as an actor, and I think he's really good as an actor. To be honest, it depicts really nice and emotional. As I say, at first it felt really awkward. To be honest, I don't know if they were trying to do that in the TV show, but now, like after, he's just like it seems to be he's just gets the like that typical your Chris Evans role kind of thing. Like the perfect lines in the perfect moment, and he's the one who will tell everything. Blah blah blah. So he had that light, and I was surprised they gave him that. To be honest. Mm-hmm. Even though there's so many controversies around everything and blah 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 surrounding in every single day life, but anyway, so I thought I mentioned that. It's my channel. I can do that.
I mean,
I'm glad to hear it's good because I wanted to watch it.
I think it's a good time, to be honest. It's just, as I say, it's quite it's good at like actions. It's really well done. Fight scenes are amazing. if that's what's your thing, but there are extra informations which I'm not into Captain America either, Terrence. So, but knowing those other things, like what's happened before and after, what kind of life if they would go there. Like Captain America went into that ice and he was forgotten for some time. What happened after that? Because there would be superheroes around it, so it would be nice to touch upon that kind of thing. But they kind of did that in this TV show anyway. So
give some of the backstory on the universe, I guess. Yeah, no, for sure. I'll definitely watch it, but just not at the top of my list. What will be at the top of my list when it comes out, though, is the Loki show, because that latest trailer looks even more fun than the original trailer. I already thought it was going to look it already sounded fantastic, but that new trailer kicked it up a little bit, where that looks like it might just be a very entertaining show. Again, character I don't really have much experience with, but it looks like the handling of it is interesting.
It cut out on me for a second. What show did you say you're looking forward to?
The Loki TV show that comes out.
Oh, Loki.
Next.
Oh, cool. Cool. Yeah.
I didn't like the trailer.
And check that out. It looks very entertaining.
I checked the trailers and I didn't like them at all. I was I'm like, I don't know. I don't. Hopefully the TV show will be better, but the trailer wasn't like. I mean, it showed him being captured. He went in some places. The Loki I'm talking about, he has this smirk on himself, which is exactly what the character is all about. Where we're gonna take him from there will be interesting, because Loki, as a god, you would say one thing, but you still have to remember, still a god. He wonder how they can tame that kind of thing in TV shows. Because of as a character itself, he still have power and he still knows exactly how to deal with people's emotions and how to talk to them about stuff. That mouth of his works really well, not his magic on stuff like that, what he does and stuff like that. So interesting. Will be interesting. Sure. Yeah, Night Manager with Hugh Laurie is fantastic TV show, and him, Tom Hiddleston. Have you guys watched it? The Night Manager TV show?
No, I haven't seen it.
No, I hadn't heard of it.
If you like spy type stuff, watch it. It's really well. Both Hugh Laurie is great as an actor, of course. You both know that.
Oh yeah.
And then he's fantastic in there. It's just like right moments, right time, everything. It's like, wow, they dude knows exactly what to do. So I have to say bye-bye.
I think
that's good. That'll be good for me too.
Yeah, because I'm tired and I'm looking how long we were chatting, and both
almost 3 hours today.
And I have to wind down somehow, and I'm probably not going to sleep really well because that's what happens lately for me. Anyway, I'm not sick. It's just me being stupid.
We put in a good long chat.
Yeah, sure I mean, I love it. I could talk more, but I'll be regretting myself to see how I will be next day in the morning. So I need to somehow say no more chat. Anyway, guys, whoever you joined and talk and about all those Canadian jokes, thank you very much. Thank you for turning up.
Just no Lithuanian jokes.
Yeah.
I don't. Not many knows those Lithuanian jokes.
We don't know how to make fun of Lithuania.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, you know what? I can give you one really bad thing. Don't mention Russia.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are lots of things is mentioned in Russia and us, and especially for me, I don't know why, but I get really angry, and you just don't do it. I don't know. I haven't experienced a time when things happened because I was born in a time when many things has subsided, and I was way too little to recognize that. But anytime I'm somebody mentions the joke in Russia and in Lithuanian together, I get really pissed off.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel very funny for me.
Totally. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe
Thanks
we'll
to
be
the
back
patrons
on my
for
channel
listening.
next week. Hopefully.
Yeah.
We'll
Yes.
see
Yeah.
how everyone's
Yeah.
schedule works.
Yeah, we're gonna keep you on tippy toes. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Good afternoon.
Oh yes. Go good sleep.